Everyone has a destiny. Everyone has a wolf waiting inside them. That's what May Bernard's mother whispered to her every night before she died. But May would learn that some truths are just pretty lies we tell ourselves to survive the cruelty of this world. Because when you're the only wolfless girl in a pack of predators, when you're forced to scrub the floors where alphas walk, when your own father trades you like livestock to pay his debts, you learn that destiny is just another word for suffering. And May Bernard's suffering was about to reach heights she never imagined possible. This is the story of how the weakest became the most feared, how a maid brought alphas to their knees, how one girl's humiliation became every powerful wolf's worst nightmare. But first, she had to lose everything. Chapter 1. The Wolfless Shame. The silver polish burned May Bernard's cracked hands as she scrubbed the grand staircase of the Moonstone pack house for the third time that morning. Her knees ached against the marble steps, and her plain gray uniform 2 sizes too large and fraying at the seams hung off her thin frame like a burial shroud. You missed a spot. May didn't need to look up to know who stood above her. Henrietta Schmidt's voice had haunted her dreams since they were children, dripping with the kind of casual cruelty only the privileged could perfect. Right there. A designer heel probably worth more than May earned in 6 months tapped inches from May's raw fingertips. Oh wait. That's just your reflection. Hard to tell the difference between dirt and, well, you. Laughter echoed through the entrance hall. 3 other pack daughters clustered behind Henrietta, like a bouquet of poisonous flowers. Jana Powers with her gleaming auburn hair, Annette Booker whose father sat on the pack council, and Jacqueline Mullins, who never missed an opportunity to remind everyone that her wolf had manifested at 13 2 years early. May kept scrubbing, her dark hair falling forward to hide her burning face. The humiliation was familiar, comfortable, almost like an old coat worn thin at the elbows. Honestly, I don't understand why Alpha Douglas keeps her on staff, Jana said, examining her perfect manicured nails. It's embarrassing. A wolfless maid? What will visiting packs think? That we're charitable, Henrietta replied, her smile sharp as broken glass, taking in the defective ones, though I suppose May should be grateful. Where else would a 23-year-old woman without a wolf find work? It's not like she can fight, or hunt, or do anything actually useful. 23 years, 2 months, and 14 days. That's how long May had waited for her wolf to emerge. Every full moon, she'd stood in the sacred circle with the other young wolves, feeling nothing but the cold night air on her skin while they transformed around her. Watching their bones reshape, their fur sprout, their eyes glow with ancient power. While she remained human. Powerless. Broken. My father says it's genetic, Annette announced, as if May wasn't kneeling 3 feet away. Wolflessness. He says her mother was probably the same way, weak blood. That's why she died so young. The wolf inside rejected her. May's hand tightened on the polishing cloth, her knuckles white. She wanted to scream that her mother had been stronger than all of them combined, that she'd survived a rogue attack that killed 12 wolves, that she'd raised May alone after May's father abandoned them, working 3 jobs until her body finally gave out when May was 16. But servants didn't scream. Servants didn't defend themselves. Servants survived by becoming invisible. Ladies. A deep voice cut through the mockery like a blade through silk. May's entire body went rigid. She knew that voice. Everyone in Moonstone Pack knew that voice. Alpha Douglas MacDonald stood at the top of the staircase, his massive frame blocking out the morning light streaming through the skylight. At 35, he was in his prime 6'4" of pure muscle and dominance, with iron-gray eyes that could strip the courage from a grown wolf with a single glance. His authority radiated from him like heat from a forge, and May felt her throat close with instinctive submission. Behind him stood his beta, Terrence Ford, and his third-in-command, Rafael Ramos. The 3 most powerful males in the territory, and they were all looking directly at her. Alpha MacDonald. Henrietta immediately shifted her posture, her voice transforming from cruel to sugar-sweet, in a heartbeat. We were just harassing my staff? Douglas descended 3 steps, and the pack daughters scattered like mice before a cat. How productive. I'm sure your fathers will be thrilled to hear how you spend your mornings. Henrietta's face flushed red, but she dropped into a submissive bow. The others followed, their earlier confidence evaporating. Forgive us, Alpha, Jana murmured, her eyes on the floor. Out. Douglas didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The single word carried enough weight to send all 4 women fleeing toward the exit, their heels clicking frantically against the marble. Silence filled the entrance hall. May remained frozen on her knees, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. She'd served in the pack house for 7 years, and Douglas had never directly spoken to her. Pack alphas didn't notice servants, especially not wolfless ones. Stand up. May's legs trembled as she rose, keeping her eyes fixed on the middle button of his crisp black shirt. Looking an alpha in the eye was a challenge, and she had no death wish. Look at me. Her breath caught. That wasn't a request. It was a command, backed by the full force of his alpha will. Her head lifted as if pulled by invisible strings, and she found herself staring into those storm cloud eyes. Up close, Douglas MacDonald was even more terrifying. A scar ran from his left temple to his jaw, a souvenir from the war with the Northern Packs 3 years ago. His dark hair was swept back from a face that looked like it had been carved from granite, all sharp angles and barely contained violence. But his eyes held something she didn't expect. Something that looked almost like recognition. "What's your name?" he asked quietly. "May Bernard, Alpha." Her voice came out barely above a whisper. "How long have you worked here, May Bernard?" 7 years, Alpha. "And in 7 years, has anyone in my pack shown you an ounce of respect?" The question was so unexpected that May forgot to breathe. What kind of trap was this? If she said yes, she'd be lying. If she said no, she'd be insulting his pack, his leadership. I don't require respect, Alpha. I'm grateful for the work." Something flickered across Douglas's face, disappointment, maybe, or anger. Behind him, Terrence and Raphael exchanged glances that May couldn't interpret. "You're wolfless," Douglas stated. Not a question. Everyone knew. "Yes, Alpha." "Do you know why?" May's throat tightened. "No, Alpha. The pack healers say there's nothing medically wrong with me. My wolf just never came. Or perhaps," Douglas said slowly, each word deliberate, "your wolf is there, but she's been waiting for the right moment to emerge." May's heart stuttered. Was he mocking her? Offering false hope? She'd spent 7 years accepting her fate, building walls around the part of her that still dreamed of transformation. She couldn't afford to let anyone tear those walls down. "With respect, Alpha, I don't think. I'm not asking what you think." Douglas descended the remaining steps until he stood directly in front of her, so close she could smell his scent, pine and steel, and something wild that made her instincts scream. "I'm telling you what I know. And what I know is that wolfless wolves are rare, but they exist. They're late bloomers whose wolves are waiting for a catalyst, a trauma, a threat, or," his eyes bore into hers, "a mate bond." The world tilted sideways. "No. No. 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 Alpha Douglas," Terrence said carefully from the staircase. "Perhaps this conversation should happen somewhere more private. She needs to hear it now." Douglas's gaze never left May's face. "May Bernard, do you know what I smelled the moment I entered this hall?" May shook her head, incapable of speech. "Lilac and rainwater. The exact scent I've been searching for since I became Alpha 12 years ago." His jaw clenched. "You're my mate." The polishing cloth slipped from May's numb fingers and hit the marble floor with a soft thud that sounded like thunder in her ears. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. Alpha Douglas MacDonald, the most powerful wolf in 3 territories, the male every unmated female in the pack desired, the leader who could have any woman he wanted, was claiming that she was his mate? The wolfless maid? The broken one? The girl who scrubbed his floors? That's impossible," May heard herself say. "I don't have a wolf. I can't feel mate bonds. I can't feel anything." "Your human side can't," Douglas corrected. "But your wolf knows. She's known since the first day you walked into this pack house 7 years ago. She's been silent, waiting, protecting herself until I found her. Until I found you. This is insane." May took a step backward, then another. Her back hit the wall beside the staircase. "You're mistaking me for someone else. You have to be. I'm nobody. I'm nothing. I'm mine." The word detonated in the space between them like a grenade. Douglas's eyes flashed gold, his wolf rising to the surface, and power rolled off him in waves that made May's knees buckle. She would have collapsed if Terrence hadn't suddenly appeared beside her, his hand steadying her elbow with surprising gentleness. "Easy," Terrence murmured. "Breathe, May. Just breathe." "I don't understand," May whispered, tears burning behind her eyes. "Why would the moon goddess do this? Why would she pair you with someone defective? Someone who can't shift, can't fight, can't give you strong heirs? It's cruel. It's perfect." Douglas closed the distance between them again. And this time when he reached out, his hand cupped her face with a tenderness that made her chest ache. His thumb brushed away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. You think I want another pack princess? Another female who sees me as a prize to be won? I've met hundreds of them, May. Beautiful, powerful she-wolves with impeccable bloodlines and political connections. And every single one of them looked at me and saw a throne, not a person. His eyes softened. But you look at me and see a threat. Because you've learned that power only ever hurts people like you, haven't you? May couldn't answer. Her voice had abandoned her completely. I've watched you for 7 years, Douglas continued, and the confession sent electricity down her spine. I've watched you work twice as hard as every other staff member, because you know they're looking for reasons to fire you. I've watched you take abuse without complaint, because you can't afford to lose this job. I've watched you heal scraped knees for pack pups who call you the weird lady, and I've watched you share your meals with the Omega wolves who have no one else. He leaned closer, until his forehead nearly touched hers. I've watched you be strong in ways that have nothing to do with claws and fangs. And I've been waiting for the day I could tell you that your suffering is over. That you're not broken. That you're exactly who you were always meant to be. And who is that? May asked, her voice cracking. Douglas smiled, a real smile that transformed his harsh face into something almost beautiful. My Luna. The future leader of Moonstone Pack. The woman who will stand beside me and show every wolf in this territory what true strength looks like. The entrance hall spun. May felt Terrence's grip on her elbow tighten as her legs gave out completely. This was a dream. A hallucination brought on by silver polish fumes. Because the alternative that this was real. That her entire life was about to change. That the impossible was happening was too terrifying to contemplate. May swallowed hard. I need time. To process. To think. I can't just... Of course. Douglas straightened, his alpha mask sliding back into place. Take the rest of the day. Go to your quarters. Rest. We'll talk again tonight at the pack gathering. May's blood turned to ice. The pack gathering? Where I'll formally announce our mate bond to the pack, Douglas said calmly, as if he hadn't just dropped a bomb that would shatter her entire existence. I've delayed claiming my Luna long enough. The pack needs stability. They need to see their alpha has found his mate. But they'll never accept me. The words burst out before May could stop them. I'm Wolfless. I'm a servant. They'll riot. They'll obey. Douglas's voice dropped to a dangerous growl. Or they'll face me. And I promise you, May Bernard, no wolf in this territory is strong enough to challenge my choice. He turned and ascended the staircase, his beta and third in command falling into step behind him. At the landing, Douglas paused and looked back. Oh, and May, stop calling yourself broken. You're not broken. You're just dormant. And tonight, at the gathering, I'm going to show the entire pack exactly what happens when a dormant wolf finally wakes up. Then he was gone, his footsteps echoing away into the depths of the pack house, leaving May alone in the entrance hall, with her racing heart, and her shattered world, and the terrifying knowledge that her life as she knew it had just ended. And somewhere deep inside her chest, in a place she'd learned to ignore years ago, something stirred. Something wild. Something that felt almost like hope. Chapter 2. The Omega's Quarters. May's quarters were located in the basement of the pack house, down a narrow corridor that smelled of mildew and forgotten things. It wasn't officially called the Omega Wing, but everyone knew that's what it was, the place where the pack's lowest members lived, far from the sunlight and luxury enjoyed by those with power. Her room was barely larger than a closet. A narrow bed with a thin mattress, a wooden dresser with a cracked mirror, and a single window at ground level that offered a view of people's feet as they walked past outside. But it was hers. The only space in the entire world where May could close a door and pretend, for a few precious hours, that she was safe. She made it 3 steps inside before her legs gave out completely. May collapsed onto the threadbare rug, her back against the bed frame, and finally let herself fall apart. The tears came in waves, each one dragging up 7 years of suppressed pain. She cried for the girl she'd been at 16, standing in the transformation circle for the first time while her wolf failed to appear. She cried for every cruel word, every pitying glance, every door that had closed in her face because she was defective. She cried for her mother, who died believing May would eventually shift, never knowing her daughter would be trapped in this half-life forever. And she cried because Douglas MacDonald had just offered her everything she'd ever dreamed of, and she was terrified it would destroy her. His mate. The words kept echoing in her head like a curse. How could the moon goddess be so cruel? To finally give May a chance at belonging, at power, at love, but to make it so impossible that the entire pack would revolt? A soft knock interrupted her breakdown. May scrambled to her feet, swiping at her tear-stained face. "Who is it?" "It's me, honey." Relief flooded through her. May rushed to unlock the door, and Deanne Caldwell slipped inside like a shadow. At 63, Deanne was the pack house's head cook, and the closest thing May had to family. She'd been the one to find May sleeping in the pack's storage shed 7 years ago, desperate and starving after her mother's death. She'd been the one to convince the previous head of staff to give May a job. She'd been the one to teach May how to survive in a world designed to crush people like them. Dean's weathered face was creased with worry. She carried a tray laden with food, fresh bread, cheese, sliced fruit, and a steaming mug of tea that smelled like chamomile and honey. "Eat," Deanne commanded, setting the tray on the dresser. "You're pale as death, child." "How did you hear already?" May asked weakly. Of course the gossip had spread. In the pack house, secrets lasted about as long as snow in summer. The entire staff is talking about nothing else. Deanne settled onto the bed with a grunt, her arthritic knees protesting. "Alpha Douglas claimed you're his mate. Is it true?" May nodded miserably. "Sweet moon goddess." Deanne's hand flew to her mouth. "May, do you understand what this means? That I'm about to become the most hated wolf in the territory?" May laughed bitterly. "That every she-wolf who's ever dreamed of being Luna will want me dead? That the pack will never accept a wolfless servant as their leader?" "Yes, Deanne. I understand perfectly. That's not what I meant." Deanne leaned forward, her dark eyes intense. "I meant that you're about to become the most powerful female in 3 territories. That you'll have resources, protection, and influence beyond your wildest dreams. That you'll finally be safe, May." "Safe." The word felt foreign on May's tongue. "I won't be safe," May whispered. "I'll be a target. Every wolf in this pack has more reason to challenge me than to accept me, and without a wolf of my own, I can't defend myself. I can't fight. I can't." "Stop." Deanne's voice cracked like a whip. "Stop diminishing yourself. You've survived things that would have broken stronger wolves. You've endured years of abuse and kept your kindness intact. You've worked yourself to exhaustion without complaint. That's strength, May. That's real strength. It won't be enough." May slumped against the wall, exhaustion crashing over her. "At the gathering tonight, when Douglas announces our bond, the pack will lose their minds. And I'll be standing there, powerless, while they tear me apart." Deanne was quiet for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was careful. "What if you weren't powerless?" "Deanne." May's head snapped up. "What? What if Douglas is right? What if your wolf is just dormant, waiting for the right trigger?" "Deanne, I've been waiting for 23 years. No. Listen to me." Deanne scooted closer, her weathered hands gripping May's shoulders. "I knew your mother, May. Did I ever tell you that?" May's breath caught. "No. You never. We grew up in the same pack. Before I transferred here to marry my late mate. Your mother, Karen, she was extraordinary. Powerful. Her wolf was pure white, rare as starlight. But..." Deanne's expression grew troubled. "There were rumors. Whispers that Karen came from a bloodline that was cursed. That her ancestors had been blessed or cursed, depending on who you asked, by the moon goddess herself." "Cursed how?" May's heart was hammering again. With power that could only be unlocked through suffering. With wolves that slept until their human halves had endured enough pain to earn the transformation. Deanne's eyes glistened. "I never believed it. I thought it was just pack politics. Jealous wolves trying to diminish Karen's accomplishments. But then you were born. And you were wolfless. And your mother spent years researching your condition. And before she died, she told me something." May couldn't breathe. "What did she tell you?" Deanne reached into her apron pocket and withdrew a small leather journal, its cover cracked with age. "She said if anything happened to her, I should give this to you when the time was right. When you were ready to understand." May's hands trembled as she accepted the journal. Her mother's handwriting covered the first page, each letter painfully familiar. "My dearest May, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And I'm so sorry I couldn't stay to see you transform into the magnificent wolf I know you'll become. You are not broken, my love. You are not defective. You are exactly what you were meant to be. A dormant wolf, carrying a bloodline older than our pack, older than most living memory. Our family comes from the first wolves, the ones who walked alongside the moon goddess herself. We were her guardians, her warriors, her judges. And our power was too great to be given freely. It had to be earned through suffering, through surviving what others could not. Your wolf will come, May. But only when you've endured enough to prove you're worthy of the power you'll wield. Only when you've learned true strength, the kind that has nothing to do with claws and fangs. I know this seems cruel. I spent years raging at the moon goddess for this burden she placed on you. But I've come to understand that you will be stronger than any wolf in our generation. When your wolf finally emerges, she will be unstoppable. Trust your mate when he finds you. The moon goddess doesn't make mistakes. If he claims you're his, believe him. His love will be the final key that unlocks what you've been carrying all along. I love you more than words can express. Be brave, my darling. Your story is just beginning. Mom. The journal slipped from May's numb fingers. A dormant wolf. A bloodline blessed by the moon goddess herself. Power that had to be earned through suffering. 7 years of abuse. 7 years of humiliation. 7 years of enduring what would have broken anyone else. What if it had all been preparation? What if every cruel word, every backbreaking shift, every moment of loneliness had been forging her into something stronger? I don't understand, May whispered. If this is true, why didn't my mother tell me before she died? Because you were 16 and terrified, Deanne said gently. Because she knew you needed time to build your strength as a human before you could handle the truth. Because, she hesitated. Because, the transformation of a dormant wolf is violent, May. Dangerous. Your mother wanted you to be mentally prepared before attempting it. Attempting it? You mean I have to choose to transform? No. It will happen naturally when the conditions are right. When you've suffered enough, when you've found your mate, and when. Deanne's voice dropped to barely a whisper. When you're threatened enough that your survival depends on your wolf emerging. A chill ran down May's spine. What are you saying? I'm saying that tonight, at the pack gathering, you need to be ready. Deanne stood, her expression grave. When Douglas announces your bond, there will be challenges. Wolves who want to test you, to prove you're unworthy. And if they threaten you enough, if they push you far enough, my wolf will wake up to defend me. May finished, her voice hollow. Exactly. May stared at the journal on the floor, her mother's words burned into her brain. Could it really be that simple? Survive the night, trigger the transformation, and suddenly she'd be powerful enough to stand beside Douglas as his equal? Or would she simply die, torn apart by wolves stronger and faster than her human body could hope to defend against? What if my wolf doesn't wake up? May asked quietly. What if I'm just regular Wolfless? And this is all wishful thinking. Deanne crouched down, ignoring the protest of her knees, and cupped May's face in her weathered hands. Then you'll do what you've always done. You'll survive. Because you're Karen's daughter. And you're stronger than you know. A commotion erupted in the hallway outside, raised voices, hurried footsteps, the sharp click of expensive heels on concrete. Deanne's expression darkened. They're coming. Who? The door burst open without warning, slamming against the wall hard enough to crack the plaster. Henrietta Schmidt stood in the doorway, flanked by Jana Powers, Annette Booker, and Jacqueline Mullins. But they weren't alone. Behind them crowded at least a dozen other pack daughters, their faces twisted with fury and disbelief. Is it true? Henrietta demanded, her voice shrill. Are you actually claiming to be Alpha Douglas's mate? May scrambled to her feet, her back pressed against the far wall. Deanne moved to stand protectively in front of her, but Henrietta shouldered the older woman aside with casual cruelty. I asked you a question, Maid. Henrietta advanced into the tiny room, forcing May back until she had nowhere left to go. Did you really have the audacity to seduce our Alpha? To trick him into believing you're his mate? I didn't trick anyone, May said, trying to keep her voice steady. He approached me, he said. Lies. Jana pushed forward, her beautiful face ugly with rage. Alphas don't mate with wolfless servants. It's impossible. You must have used magic, or drugs, or some kind of spell. Or maybe, Annette interrupted, her tone poisonously sweet. She spread her legs and played the victim. Poor little orphan girl. So sad and helpless. Men love that, don't they? The broken bird they can fix? The other she-wolves laughed, the sound cruel and sharp. May's hands clenched into fists at her sides. 7 years of taking their abuse, 7 years of swallowing her pride, 7 years of being invisible, and suddenly she was done. "Get out of my room," May said quietly. The laughter stopped. Henrietta's eyes widened with mock surprise. "I'm sorry. Did the maid just give me an order? This is my space. You have no right to be here." "Your space?" Henrietta threw her head back and laughed, the sound like breaking glass. "You don't own anything, May. Not this room. Not your dignity. And certainly not our Alpha. You're delusional if you think tonight's announcement will actually happen. Douglas will come to his senses before then. He'll realize what a mistake he made, and you'll be back where you belong on your knees scrubbing our floors. And if he doesn't come to his senses," Jacqueline added, stepping forward, "the pack will handle it, because we protect our own, and you are not one of us." "Never were," Jana agreed. "Never will be." They were circling her now, a pack of predators surrounding wounded prey. May could smell their wolves' musk and aggression and barely contained violence. Her human senses were screaming at her to submit, to bow her head, to accept her place at the bottom of the hierarchy. But something else was stirring inside her. Something that had been sleeping for 23 years, listening to every insult, remembering every wound, growing stronger with each moment of suffering. Something that was done being silent. "You're right," May said, her voice eerily calm. "I'm not one of you. I'm not a spoiled pack princess who's never worked a day in her life. I'm not someone who finds joy in tormenting people weaker than me. I'm not a wolf who values bloodlines over character." Henrietta's hand shot out and gripped May's throat, slamming her back against the wall. "Watch your mouth, you worthless." The room exploded with light. May didn't know where it came from. One moment Henrietta's fingers were crushing her windpipe, and the next, a wave of pure energy erupted from May's body, sending all 15 she-wolves flying backward. They hit the opposite wall with enough force to crack the concrete, their shocked screams filling the tiny room. Deanne stood frozen in the corner, her eyes wide with wonder and terror. May looked down at her hands. They were glowing. Actually glowing, with a silver light that seemed to pulse in time with her racing heartbeat. "What?" Henrietta struggled to her feet, blood trickling from a cut on her forehead. What the hell was that? May had no answer. Because she didn't understand either. But deep in her chest, in that place she'd learned to ignore, something was laughing. Something wild and ancient and powerful, finally waking up after 23 years of sleep. And it was hungry. Henrietta's eyes flashed gold as her wolf surged forward. "You're going to regret that, you freak." The other she-wolves were recovering now, their bodies shifting, bones cracking as they prepared to transform. 15 fully shifted wolves against one powerless human in a room barely large enough to hold them all. May should have been terrified, but all she felt was a strange, cold calm. "Bring it," she heard herself say. And somewhere in the pack house above them, Douglas MacDonald's head snapped up, his wolf howling with sudden alarm as he felt his mate's life force spike with adrenaline and power. The dormant wolf was waking, and the entire Moonstone pack was about to learn what happened when you pushed a Bernard woman too far. Chapter 3. The First Shift. The transformation started in May's bones. Not a subtle awakening. Not a gentle unfurling of dormant power, but a violent shattering that felt like every cell in her body was being ripped apart and reassembled by an angry god. May's scream tore through the basement corridor, raw and animal, and nothing like any sound a human throat should be capable of making. The silver light that had been glowing softly around her hands suddenly exploded outward, flooding the tiny room with brilliance so intense that the she-wolves had to shield their eyes. "Stop her!" Henrietta shrieked. Her wolf halfway emerged, her body caught between human and beast, before she fully shifts. But it was already too late. May collapsed to her knees as her spine began to elongate, the vertebrae cracking and reforming with sounds like gunshots in the confined space. Her skin rippled, and beneath it, something moved, something massive and furious and done with being caged. Deanne pressed herself into the corner, tears streaming down her weathered face. "Moon Goddess, protect us," she whispered. "It's happening. It's really happening." May's fingers elongated, her nails splitting and falling away as curved black claws emerged. The pain was indescribable, like being burned alive from the inside out. Every nerve ending was on fire, every muscle tearing and rebuilding, every sense suddenly amplified 1,000-fold. She could smell everything. The fierce sweat of the she-wolves, the mildew in the walls, Deanne's chamomile tea from 3 rooms away, Douglas's pine and steel scent from 5 floors above. Getting closer, he was running, she realized, racing toward her with inhuman speed. She could hear everything. Heartbeats like war drums. Whispered conversations throughout the pack house. the earth settling beneath the building's foundation, the wind moving through trees half a mile away, and beneath it all, she could hear a voice she'd been waiting 23 years to meet. Finally her wolf growled, her tone ancient and battle-scarred and absolutely merciless. "Finally, you let me out to play. She's actually shifting." Jana backed toward the door, her wolf retreating in the face of something she didn't understand. "That's impossible. Wolfless wolves can't." Her words cut off as May's body convulsed one final time. Fur erupted across her skin, not the usual brown or gray or black of common wolves, but pure white streaked with silver, like moonlight made solid. Her face elongated into a muzzle filled with teeth designed for tearing. Her legs reshaped, powerful haunches bunching with muscle that hadn't existed moments before. When the transformation completed, May Bernard no longer existed. In her place stood a wolf that made every she-wolf in the room instinctively drop into submission. May's wolf was massive, easily twice the size of a normal female, bigger even than most male alphas. Her white fur seemed to shimmer with that same silver light, as if she'd been dipped in starlight. Her eyes had gone from plain brown to luminous gold shot through with veins of pure silver, and the power radiating from her. Henrietta's wolf whimpered and flattened itself against the floor, neck bared in automatic submission. The other she-wolves followed, their earlier aggression evaporating in the face of something their instincts recognized as superior. "Pathetic," May's wolf snarled, her voice resonating through May's mind like thunder. "These are the wolves who tormented you? These pups? I could kill them all before they managed to stand." No, May thought back, struggling to maintain control over her own body as the wolf's bloodlust surged through her. "No killing. Please. They deserve it. They came here to hurt you, to put you back in your place. I know. But I'm not them, I won't become them." Her wolf laughed, a sound like rocks tumbling down a mountainside. "Such human mercy. You'll learn. Power demands consequences. But fine. For now, we'll settle for making them understand what they're dealing with." May's wolf took one deliberate step forward. Henrietta's wolf scrambled backward, a high-pitched whine escaping her throat. "I'm sorry," Henrietta gasped, her voice distorted by her partial transformation. "I'm sorry. I didn't know. Please don't." The door exploded inward. Douglas MacDonald stood in the doorway, his chest heaving, his eyes blazing gold with his wolf's presence. Terence and Raphael flanked him, both of them staring at May's wolf with expressions of pure shock. For a long moment, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then Douglas's wolf roared a sound of pure triumph and possession and overwhelming joy, and he was across the room in a blur of motion. He dropped to his knees in front of May's wolf, his head bowed, his neck bared in a gesture of ultimate respect and recognition. "My Luna," he breathed, his voice rough with emotion. May's wolf lowered her massive head and pressed her muzzle against Douglas's neck, breathing in his scent. The mate bond that had been theoretical moments ago suddenly snapped into place like a steel cable connecting their souls, and the sensation was so overwhelming that May's wolf actually stumbled. "Mate," her wolf confirmed, her earlier aggression melting into something warm and protective and achingly tender. "Ours. Finally ours." Douglas's hands came up to bury themselves in May's fur, and he was laughing, actually laughing, with a sound of such pure relief that it made May's heart ache. "I knew it," he said, his face pressed against her neck. "I knew your wolf was in there. I knew she was just waiting for the right moment." He pulled back to look into her golden eyes. "You're magnificent. Do you understand me? You're the most magnificent thing I've ever seen." Behind him, Terence cleared his throat. "Alpha, we have a problem." Douglas's expression hardened instantly, his protective instincts flaring. He stood but kept one hand on May's head, maintaining physical contact. "Speak." The entire pack house felt that energy spike. Terence gestured toward the cracked walls, the scorch marks where May's power had exploded outward. "Everyone knows something major just happened, and with the gathering scheduled for tonight." He trailed off meaningfully. Raphael stepped forward, his dark eyes fixed on the she-wolves still prostrated on the floor. "These pack daughters witnessed Luna May's first transformation. They'll talk. By sunset, every wolf in the territory will know that the wolfless Maid just shifted into a wolf more powerful than most of their alphas." "Good," Douglas said flatly. "Let them know. Let them understand exactly who they've been disrespecting for 7 years. Douglas." Deanne's voice, quiet but firm, cut through the tension. She was still pressed into the corner, but her expression was knowing. "You need to understand what just happened here. May isn't just a late bloomer. She's a dormant wolf, a descendant of the first wolves. Her mother was from the Bernard bloodline. Every wolf in the room went still. The Bernard bloodline? Raphael's voice was barely a whisper. The goddess's guardians? I thought that was a myth. Clearly not. Deanne pushed herself to her feet, wincing as her knees protested. May's mother, Karen, was pure white like May, and her power was... She shook her head. Devastating. When she fought, she was unstoppable. But it came at a cost. The Bernard wolves don't just have power, they pay for it with suffering. Every moment of pain, every hardship, every injustice they endure, it all feeds their wolf. Makes them stronger. Douglas's hand tightened in May's fur, his jaw clenched. You're saying that the 7 years of abuse May suffered made her wolf into that? Deanne gestured at May's massive form. A Bernard wolf's strength is directly proportional to the pain they've survived, and May has survived more than most wolves endure in a lifetime. Silence fell over the room as the implications sank in. Henrietta finally found her voice, though it came out small and terrified. Alpha Douglas, I swear we didn't know. We would never have. Never have what? Douglas's voice dropped to a lethal purr. Never have tormented her? Never have called her worthless and defective? Never have made her life a living hell for 7 years? His eyes flashed dangerously. Because that's exactly what you did. All of you. You took a descendant of the first wolves, a female who was destined to be one of the most powerful wolves in our generation, and you tried to break her spirit. We were just... Jana started. Silent. The command cracked like a whip, infused with so much alpha will that Jana's mouth snapped shut involuntarily. Douglas looked at each she-wolf in turn, his disgust palpable. At the gathering tonight you will all publicly apologize to Luna May. You will kneel before her, bare your necks, and beg her forgiveness for every cruelty you inflicted. And if she chooses to accept your apologies, which would be far more mercy than you deserve, you will spend the rest of your lives proving your loyalty to her. Do I make myself clear? A chorus of yes, Alpha, echoed through the room. Get out. All of you. And if I hear even a whisper of disrespect toward my mate before tonight's gathering, you'll learn what happens when an alpha truly loses his temper. The she-wolves fled, stumbling over each other in their haste to escape. Only Deanne remained, watching the scene with the wise eyes of someone who'd seen history repeat itself. When the room finally cleared, Douglas turned his full attention back to May's wolf. His expression softened, all the harsh authority melting away to reveal something vulnerable underneath. Can you shift back? He asked gently. I'd like to talk to the human side of my mate, if she's ready. May's wolf huffed a sound that might have been amusement. He's polite. I like him. Very well. But don't take too long. I've been caged for 23 years. I want to run. Soon, May promised. I promise we'll run. The shift back was less violent than the transformation, but no less painful. May felt her bones compress, her fur recede, her massive body shrinking back into her human form. Within moments, she was kneeling on the floor, naked and shaking, and covered in a sheen of sweat. Douglas immediately shrugged off his shirt and wrapped it around her shoulders, his movements careful and respectful. The shirt hung to her knees, engulfing her small frame. Easy, he murmured, supporting her as she struggled to stand. First shifts are exhausting. You did beautifully. May looked up at him, her human eyes still holding flecks of gold. I have a wolf. Douglas smiled, and it transformed his entire face. You have an incredible wolf. I'm not broken. You were never broken. All those years. May's voice cracked. All those years. I thought there was something wrong with me. I thought the moon goddess had cursed me, or punished me, or forgotten about me. But she was just waiting, making me strong enough to handle this. And you are, Douglas said firmly. Strong enough to handle anything. Strong enough to be my Luna. Strong enough to lead this pack beside me, and show them what real power looks like. Terrence cleared his throat again. Speaking of which, we need to prepare for tonight. If Luna May's first public appearance is at the gathering, we need to do this right. No more servants' uniforms, no more hiding in the basement. She needs to look like what she is, the future leader of Moonstone Pack. Raphael nodded. I'll have my mate, Michelle, coordinate with the wardrobe staff. We'll need something that reflects Luna May's status and power. And I, Deanne said, her voice thick with emotion, will prepare a feast worthy of celebrating our Luna's transformation. Moon Goddess knows this pack owes her more than we can ever repay. Douglas's arm wrapped around May's shoulders, pulling her against his side. The mate bond hummed with contentment, and May felt her wolf purr in response. "The gathering starts at sunset," Douglas said. "That gives us 4 hours to prepare. May, I want you to rest. Your body has been through tremendous strain." "No." May surprised herself with the firmness in her voice. She straightened, meeting Douglas's eyes without flinching. "No more hiding. No more resting. If I'm going to be Luna, if I'm going to face this pack tonight, I need to prepare. I need to learn how to be what they need me to be." Douglas studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "All right. Then we train. Terrence, clear the private training grounds. Raphael, alert the pack council that we'll be making the announcement tonight as planned. And someone find Evan Summers. I want our best protocol instructor teaching Luna May everything she needs to know about pack hierarchy and Luna responsibilities." "And me?" Deanne asked. "You," Douglas said gently, "are going to tell us everything you know about the Bernard bloodline. Because if May is truly descended from the goddess's guardians, there's more to her power than just a strong wolf. And we need to understand what we're dealing with before tonight." May's hand found Douglas's, their fingers intertwining. The mate bond thrummed with shared determination. 4 hours, May said quietly. 4 hours, until I face the pack that's tormented me for 7 years. 4 hours until I either prove I'm worthy to be Luna, or they tear me apart for daring to rise above my station. Douglas squeezed her hand, his gold eyes fierce. "They won't tear you apart. I won't allow it. But more importantly," he leaned down until his forehead touched hers, "you won't allow it. Because you're not that scared Maid anymore, May. You're a wolf now. And wolves don't submit to anyone they don't choose to submit to." May's wolf stirred in agreement, her presence warm and solid in May's chest. "He's right," her wolf said. "We've been prey long enough. Tonight we show them what predators look like." May took a deep breath, squared her shoulders, and looked around the tiny basement room that had been her prison for 7 years. The cracked walls, the threadbare rug, the narrow bed that had witnessed countless nights of quiet crying. "I'm ready," she said. "Let's begin." Chapter 4. The Luna's Education. The private training grounds were a world away from the basement quarters May had called home. Located behind the pack house, the sprawling complex featured an outdoor combat arena, an obstacle course designed to test wolf agility, and a secluded garden where high-ranking wolves conducted sensitive meetings away from prying ears. May stood in the center of the combat arena, still wearing Douglas's oversized shirt paired with borrowed training pants that Terrence had procured from somewhere. Her bare feet pressed against the packed earth, and she could feel every pebble, every shift in temperature, every vibration of movement from the wolves gathering at the arena's perimeter. Her senses were overwhelming. Even in human form, she could hear conversations happening inside the pack house 300 yards away. She could smell the anxiety rolling off the dozen pack members who'd been summoned to witness her training. She could feel the afternoon sun on her skin with an intensity that made her want to shift back to wolf form just to escape the sensory overload. "You'll adapt," her wolf assured her. "First shifts are always disorienting. Give it time." Douglas stood beside her, his presence a steady anchor in the chaos. Terrence and Raphael flanked them, along with Evan Summers, a lean wolf in his 40s with sharp gray eyes and an air of academic precision that marked him as the pack's protocol instructor. "Luna May," Evan began, his tone respectful but businesslike. "We have approximately 3 hours before the gathering. In that time, I need to teach you everything a Luna needs to know about pack hierarchy, proper conduct, and the rituals you'll be expected to perform tonight. Under normal circumstances, this education takes months. We have 3 hours. So I'm going to speak quickly, and I need you to absorb everything I say. Understood?" May nodded, her throat tight. 3 hours to become someone she'd never imagined being. First lesson, pack hierarchy. Evan produced a tablet and pulled up a complex organizational chart. Moonstone Pack consists of 412 wolves across 7 territory sectors. At the top is Alpha Douglas. Below him, Beta Terrence and Third Raphael. Below them, the pack council of 12 members, who oversee territory management, security, education, and resources. May studied the chart, her mind working to memorize names and faces and positions. "Where do I fit?" "Beside the Alpha," Evan said simply. "As Luna. You're not beneath Douglas, you're his equal partner. His authority comes from strength and dominance. Yours comes from wisdom and nurturing. Together, You form the complete leadership the pack needs. But I'm not wise, May protested. And I've never nurtured anyone except every Omega wolf in this pack, Terrence interrupted gently. Except the pups who come to you with scraped knees and hurt feelings because their parents are too busy. Except the elderly staff members who can barely keep up with their duties anymore. You've been acting as an unofficial Luna for years, May. You just didn't have the title. May's chest tightened. She'd never thought of her actions that way. She'd just been trying to survive, to find small ways to feel useful in a world that treated her as worthless. Second lesson, Evan continued. The gathering itself. Tonight's event serves 3 purposes. Announcing your mate bond, introducing you formally as Luna, and allowing pack members to witness your wolf for the first time. The ceremony follows a specific structure that hasn't changed in centuries. He gestured, and Raphael stepped forward with a leather-bound book that looked older than the pack house itself. The Luna ceremony, Raphael explained, opening the book to reveal pages covered in elegant script. First, Alpha Douglas will present you to the pack and declare the mate bond. Second, you'll shift in front of the entire pack to prove your wolf is real and powerful. Third, any wolf who wishes to challenge your right to be Luna will have the opportunity to do so. May's blood ran cold. Challenge me. As in, fight me? It's tradition, Douglas said, his jaw tight. Any wolf who believes they would make a better Luna can issue a formal challenge. You then have the right to accept or decline. If you accept, you fight. Winner becomes Luna. And if I decline? Then the challenger can appeal to the pack council, who will vote on whether you're fit to lead. Douglas's expression darkened. Which is why you won't be declining any challenges. Because the moment you show weakness, the moment you suggest you can't defend your position, the pack will lose faith in you. May's hands clenched into fists. So I have to fight. Wolves who've been training their entire lives. Wolves who actually know how to use their claws and fangs. While I've been shifted for less than an hour. Yes, Douglas said bluntly. I won't lie to you, May. Tonight will be brutal. But you have advantages they don't. Like what? May's voice came out sharper than she intended. Like me. Her wolf's presence surged forward, confident and battle-ready. Like the fact that I've been watching these wolves for 23 years, learning their weaknesses, planning how I'd destroy them if you ever let me out. Like the fact that Bernard wolves are born for combat. It's literally in our blood. Evan nodded, apparently having heard May's wolf speak through their bond. Your wolf is right. Bernard wolves are legendary fighters. Your ancestors served as the moon goddess's personal guard. They fought creatures that would make modern wolves run screaming. That instinct, that knowledge, is coded into your DNA. When you fight tonight, your wolf will know what to do. Trust her, Douglas added, his hand finding May's. Trust your wolf. She's kept you alive for 23 years by staying hidden. Now she'll keep you alive by being unleashed. May wanted to argue. Wanted to point out that instinct only went so far against opponents with decades of training. But the absolute certainty in her wolf's presence made her pause. I've got this, her wolf promised. Just don't fight me. When the challenges come, let me handle them. Third lesson, Evan pressed on, pack etiquette. As Luna, certain behaviors are expected. You must never show fear, even when terrified. You must never back down from a confrontation, unless tactically necessary. You must always stand to Douglas's right, during formal events. You must address pack members by their proper titles until given permission to use familiar names. And most importantly, he met her eyes. You must remember that every action you take reflects on Douglas and his leadership. If you appear weak, the pack questions his judgment in choosing you. If you appear strong, they respect his wisdom. The weight of it crashed over May like a wave. She wasn't just fighting for herself tonight. She was fighting for Douglas's reputation, for his authority, for his ability to lead effectively. I'm going to ruin him, May whispered. One wrong move, one moment of weakness, and I'll destroy everything he's built. Then don't be weak. Deanne's voice cut across the arena. May turned to find the older woman approaching, carrying a garment bag and wearing an expression of fierce determination. I've watched you survive 7 years of hell without breaking, Dean continued. I've watched you endure abuse that would have shattered stronger wolves. I've watched you hold on to your kindness, your compassion, your humanity, even when the world gave you every reason to become bitter and cruel. That's not weakness, May. That's the strongest thing I've ever witnessed. She unzipped the garment bag, revealing a dress that made May's breath catch. It was stunning, a floor-length gown in deep midnight blue that seemed to shimmer with silver threads when the light hit it. The neckline was modest but elegant, the sleeves long and fitted. But what made May's heart race was the embroidery. White wolves running across the fabric in intricate detail, their forms seeming to move as the dress shifted. "The Bernard family crest," Deanne said softly. "Your mother wore a dress like this when she was presented as Luna to her pack, before she transferred here. I saved the embroidery pattern, hoping someday I'd be able to recreate it for you." May reached out with trembling fingers to touch the fabric. It was softer than anything she'd ever worn, clearly expensive beyond measure. "Dean, this is too much." "It's exactly enough." Deanne pressed the dress into May's hands. "You're not a maid anymore, child. You're Luna. And tonight, you need to look the part." Movement at the arena's edge caught May's attention. She turned to find Michelle Tucker, Raphael's mate, and one of the few high-ranking wolves who'd always treated May with basic courtesy, approaching with two other she-wolves carrying makeup cases and styling tools. "Luna May," Michelle said, dropping into a respectful bow. "With your permission, we'd like to help you prepare for tonight's ceremony." Luna May, not the maid, not that wolfless girl. Luna May. The title felt foreign on her tongue, like speaking a language she'd only read in books. May looked to Douglas, suddenly uncertain. He smiled, that rare gentle expression that transformed his harsh features. "You're Luna now, May. You don't need my permission for anything. If you want their help, accept it. If you don't, decline it. But understand that every she-wolf in this pack would kill for the opportunity Michelle is offering. Having the third's mate personally style you, that's an honor and a statement of support." May looked back at Michelle, seeing the genuine warmth in her dark eyes. "I would appreciate the help. Thank you." Michelle's smile widened. "Excellent. We'll start with your hair. Raphael mentioned you have your mother's white streak." Unconsciously, May's hand went to the section of hair at her right temple that had always been pure white, while the rest remained dark brown. She'd spent years trying to hide it, convinced it was another mark of her defectiveness. "It's beautiful," Michelle said firmly. "And tonight, we're going to make sure everyone sees it, because that white streak is your heritage, Luna May. It's proof of your bloodline. It's something to be proud of, not hidden." Over the next 2 hours, May was transformed. Michelle and her assistants worked with practiced efficiency, styling May's hair into an elegant updo that showcased the white streak. They applied makeup that enhanced her features, without overwhelming them, dark liner that made her brown and gold eyes striking, a subtle lip color that looked natural but polished. While they worked, Evan continued his rapid-fire instruction, drilling May on pack member names, territory boundaries, proper forms of address, and the specific wording she'd need for tonight's ceremony. And Douglas never left her side. He sat on a bench nearby, his presence steady and reassuring, occasionally interjecting with additional information or clarifications. As sunset approached, Terrence appeared with news that made May's stomach clench. "The entire pack is gathering," he reported. Word spread fast about Luna May's transformation. "We're expecting maximum attendance, probably 350 wolves, maybe more." And he hesitated. "And what?" Douglas's voice dropped dangerously low. "Visiting alphas have arrived. Apparently, rumors of a Bernard wolf's emergence traveled faster than expected. Alpha Virgil Bird from the northern pack is here. Alpha Corey Pierce from the eastern pack. Even Alpha Rodney McKee from the coastal pack made the journey." Douglas's jaw clenched. "They're here to see if the rumors are true. To assess whether May is a threat or an opportunity." "Probably both," Raphael agreed. "A Bernard wolf hasn't been seen in 2 generations. If May is as powerful as her mother was, she'll shift the balance of power in this region. Other alphas will want to know if they should seek alliance or prepare for conflict." May's hands trembled as she stepped into the dress. It fit perfectly, hugging her slender frame before flowing to the ground in elegant waves. When she looked at herself in the mirror Michelle held up, she barely recognized her own reflection. The maid was gone. In her place stood someone who looked like she could actually be Luna. Someone who looked strong and regal and worthy. "You're beautiful," Douglas said quietly, appearing behind her in the mirror. He'd changed into formal alpha attire, black pants, and a dark gray shirt that emphasized his powerful build, with silver embroidery at the collar that marked his rank. Together, they looked like they belonged beside each other, like the moon goddess had designed them to be partners. I'm terrified, May admitted, her voice barely a whisper. Good. Douglas's hands settled on her shoulders. Fear keeps you alert. Fear keeps you alive. But May? He turned her to face him, his storm cloud eyes intense. Don't let fear control you. You've already survived the worst this pack could throw at you. Everything else is just details. A gong sounded in the distance, the call to gathering. May's wolf stirred, eager and ready. It's time, her wolf said. Time to show them what we're made of. Douglas offered his arm. May took it, feeling the mate bond pulse with shared determination. Remember, Evan said as they prepared to leave the arena. You are Luna. Not because Douglas chose you, though he did. Not because you have a powerful wolf, though you do. But because the moon goddess herself decided you were worthy of this burden and this gift. Walk like you believe it. Even if you don't yet. May straightened her spine, lifted her chin, and let her wolf's confidence bleed into her human posture. Let's go meet our pack, she said, surprised by the steadiness in her own voice. As they walked toward the main gathering grounds, May could hear the assembled wolves' hundreds of voices, hundreds of heartbeats, hundreds of eyes that would soon be fixed on her, judging her, challenging her, testing whether she deserved to stand beside their alpha. 7 years ago, she'd arrived at this pack house broken and desperate, willing to do anything for a chance to survive. Tonight, she would return to those same wolves as their Luna, and the moon goddess help anyone who tried to take that title from her. Chapter 5. The Gathering. The main gathering grounds were located in a natural amphitheater carved into the hillside behind the pack house. Stone terraces descended in concentric circles toward a flat arena at the center, where ancient rune stones marked the sacred space where pack ceremonies had been conducted for generations. Torches lined the pathways, their flames casting dancing shadows across hundreds of assembled wolves. May's first glimpse of the crowd made her steps falter. She'd known intellectually that the entire pack would attend, but knowing and seeing were two different things. 350 wolves filled the terraces, their eyes reflecting torchlight like stars in the darkness. The air hummed with barely contained energy, curiosity, skepticism, hostility, and excitement all tangled together into something electric. Breathe, Douglas murmured, his hand tightening on her arm. I'm right here. They descended the main pathway, and a hush fell over the crowd like a wave rolling across the amphitheater. May could feel every gaze tracking her movement, assessing her dress, her posture, the white streak in her hair that marked her heritage. She heard the whispers starting. That's her, the maid? Look at her dress, that's the Bernard crest. She's so small. How can she possibly be Luna material? I heard her wolf is massive. White like her mother's. Impossible. Karen Bernard's daughter? I thought she was dead. May forced herself to keep walking, to keep her chin up, to project a confidence she absolutely didn't feel. Her wolf prowled restlessly beneath her skin, eager to emerge and silence the doubters with raw power. Soon, May promised. Let them talk. Let them doubt. It'll make the transformation more satisfying. The visiting alphas occupied a special section on the highest terrace positions of honor that allowed them to observe without participating. May felt their gazes like physical weight. Alpha Virgil Bird was a grizzled male in his 60s, his gray hair tied back in a warrior's knot, scars crisscrossing his exposed forearms. His eyes tracked May with the calculated precision of someone assessing a potential threat. Alpha Corey Pierce was younger, mid-30s, with golden hair and the kind of classical handsomeness that probably made unmated females swoon. He watched May with unconcealed curiosity, his head tilted like he was trying to solve a puzzle. And Alpha Rodney McKee. May's steps nearly faltered when his gaze met hers. He was massive, easily matching Douglas in size, with dark skin and eyes that held ancient knowledge. When he looked at May, she had the unsettling sensation that he could see straight through to her wolf. Douglas led her to the center of the arena, where a raised platform had been constructed. Terrence and Raphael flanked them, while Evan stood ready with the ceremonial texts. Dean waited near the platform's edge, her weathered face glowing with pride. When Douglas raised his hand, absolute silence fell. Moonstone Pack, Douglas's voice rang out, amplified by the natural acoustics of the amphitheater. Tonight, we gather to witness history. Tonight, I present to you my mate the wolf, chosen by the moon goddess herself, to stand beside me as Luna. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. May saw Henrietta and her group huddled together on a lower terrace, their expressions carefully neutral but their fear scent unmistakable. 7 years ago, Douglas continued, his voice carrying weight and authority. "A young woman came to our pack house seeking work. She was wolfless, orphaned, desperate. And we, as a pack, treated her with casual cruelty. We mocked her, diminished her, made her feel worthless because she couldn't shift." The murmurs grew louder. Wolves exchanged uncomfortable glances. "Tonight, we learn the cost of our cruelty. Because that young woman, May Bernard, is not wolfless. She never was. She is a dormant wolf, descended from the Bernard bloodline. The first wolves. The moon goddess's guardians." Gasps echoed across the amphitheater. Several older wolves shot to their feet, their expressions shocked. "The Bernard line," someone shouted from the crowd, an elderly male May didn't recognize. "That's impossible. That bloodline hasn't been seen in this territory for 30 years. And yet," Douglas said calmly, "she stands before you now. May Bernard, daughter of Karen Bernard, inheritor of a legacy older than our pack. A wolf whose power is directly proportional to the suffering she's endured, and this pack has given her years of suffering to draw from." The implication hung in the air like a blade. Every wolf who'd ever mocked May, dismissed her, or made her life difficult now understood they'd been tormenting someone who would remember. Someone who could make them pay. "Tonight," Douglas said, his hand finding May's, "I present her to you as your Luna. And I dare any wolf who doubts her right to this position to step forward and challenge her." The invitation echoed across the amphitheater. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then a figure rose from the mid-level terrace. Jana Powers, her auburn hair gleaming in the torchlight, stepped forward with deliberate grace. "I challenge Luna May's right to lead this pack," Jana announced, her voice carrying clearly. "With all due respect to Alpha Douglas and his discovery, I believe Moonstone Pack deserves a Luna who has proven herself, who has trained her entire life for leadership, who actually knows how to fight." May's wolf snarled with anticipation. Finally, someone stupid enough to volunteer. "Your challenge is acknowledged," Douglas said formally, though his eyes had gone cold. "May Bernard, do you accept?" May stepped forward, surprised by the steadiness in her legs. "I accept." Jana's smile was sharp. "Excellent. I'll try to make this quick. I know you've had a long day." The pack members shifted forward, eager to watch the spectacle. Several males from Jana's family, the Powers pack line was large and influential, called out encouragements. "First blood?" Jana asked, following the traditional challenge format. "No." May's voice rang out clear and firm. "Submission or unconsciousness?" The crowd gasped. First blood challenges were standard quick fights that ended when one combatant drew blood from the other. But submission or unconsciousness, those were the challenges of wolves fighting for their lives. Jana's smile faltered. "You're joking." "I'm not." May began removing her shoes, her movements deliberate. "You stood in my room earlier today and told me I would never be one of you. You spent 7 years making sure I knew I was worthless. So no, Jana. I'm not going to give you the mercy of first blood. You'll submit, or you'll sleep. Those are your options." "May," Douglas said quietly, "you don't have to." "Yes, I do." May looked at him, her eyes flashing gold. "You said yourself that every action I take reflects on your leadership. If I show mercy to someone who showed me none, the pack will see weakness. So I'm doing this your way, the Alpha way." Something fierce and proud flashed across Douglas's face. He stepped back, giving her space. "Shift at will," Evan announced, his voice carrying the formal tone of an official match. "Fight until one combatant submits or loses consciousness. The winner's claim to Luna will be uncontested. Begin." Jana shifted immediately, her transformation smooth and practiced. Her wolf was a beautiful russet color, lean and quick, with intelligent amber eyes. She'd been training for combat since she was 15. May had heard the stories of her tournament victories. The crowd held its breath, waiting for May's transformation. May closed her eyes and reached for her wolf. "Ready?" she asked. "Born ready," her wolf replied. "Let's show them what happens when you push a Bernard woman too far." The shift came easier this time. May's bones reformed with less pain, her fur sprouting in silky waves, her senses expanding to encompass the entire amphitheater. Within seconds, she stood on 4 legs, her massive white form dwarfing Jana's wolf. The crowd erupted in shocked exclamations. "Moon goddess, she's enormous. That's definitely Karen's daughter. Look at her eyes, are those silver veins? May's wolf fixed her gaze on Jana, who had gone very still. The russet wolf's earlier confidence had evaporated, replaced by the instinctive recognition that she'd made a terrible mistake. Run, May's wolf suggested, her tone almost playful. It's more fun when they run. Jana's wolf didn't need to be told twice. She bolted, racing around the perimeter of the arena with impressive speed. May's wolf watched her for exactly 3 seconds. Then she pounced. The distance closed in a blur of white fur and controlled power. May's wolf didn't just chase Jana, she cut off her escape routes, herded her like prey, demonstrated that every move Jana made had been anticipated and countered. When Jana tried to use her smaller size to slip through a gap between 2 runestones, May's wolf was already there, her massive form blocking the path. When Jana attempted a desperate lunge at May's throat, a classic offensive move, May's wolf simply stepped aside and used Jana's own momentum to flip her onto her back. And when Jana tried to submit, dropping into a belly-up position with her throat bared, May's wolf didn't stop. Wait, May thought, alarmed. She's submitting. That's the rule. She came to your room planning to hurt you, her wolf snarled back. She spent years tormenting you. Submission isn't enough. She needs to understand the cost of what she did. May's wolf pinned Jana to the ground, her massive jaws closing around the smaller wolf's throat, not hard enough to break skin, but with enough pressure to make Jana's eyes widen with terror. For 10 seconds, May's wolf held her there. 10 seconds where Jana felt what it was like to be completely powerless. To have her life in someone else's jaws. To know that mercy was the only thing keeping her alive. Then May's wolf released her and stepped back. Jana scrambled away, shifted back to human form, and dropped to her knees with her head bowed. Blood trickled from small cuts where May's teeth had pressed, not enough to cause real damage, but enough to mark her. I submit, Jana gasped. I submit to Luna May. I acknowledge her right to lead. I beg her forgiveness for my past cruelty. May shifted back, standing naked in the arena for a moment before Douglas appeared with a robe, draping it around her shoulders with tender care. Your submission is accepted, May said, her voice carrying across the amphitheater. But understand, Jana, forgiveness isn't the same as forgetting. You'll spend the rest of your life proving you've learned from this moment. Do we have an understanding? Yes, Luna May. Jana's head remained bowed. Thank you for your mercy. May turned to face the crowd, her heart pounding but her expression composed. Anyone else? Silence stretched across the amphitheater. Then, I challenge. The voice came from the upper terrace. Jacqueline Mullins stepped forward, her expression hard. Unlike Jana, Jacqueline's wolf had manifested early at 13, 2 years ahead of schedule. She was known throughout the pack as one of their most promising fighters. Your challenge is acknowledged, Douglas said, though May could feel his tension through the mate bond. May Bernard, do you accept? May wanted to say no. Her body ached from the first transformation, her energy depleted from the fight with Jana. But she could see the calculation in the crowd's eyes. If she declined now, they'd think she could only win against weaker opponents. I accept, May said, keeping her voice steady. Same terms, submission or unconsciousness. Jacqueline smiled coldly. I was hoping you'd say that. This time, May knew what to expect. When Evan called for them to begin, both she-wolves shifted simultaneously. Jacqueline's wolf was midnight black, with a white patch on her chest, slightly smaller than Jana's but clearly more muscular. She'd spent years in combat training, and it showed in the way she moved, efficient, economical, every motion purposeful. The fight lasted longer than the first. Jacqueline was smart. She didn't try to match May's power directly. Instead, she used speed and agility, darting in for quick strikes before dancing away. She aimed for vulnerable points, the joints, the flanks, the ears. And for the first minute, her strategy worked. She landed several solid bites, drawing thin lines of blood across May's white fur. The crowd cheered, sensing a real contest. But May's wolf was learning. With each exchange, she tracked Jacqueline's patterns. The slight hesitation before she struck. The tendency to favor her left side. The way she always retreated toward the eastern edge of the arena. Enough playing, May's wolf decided. The next time Jacqueline lunged, May's wolf didn't dodge. She met the attack head-on, her superior size and weight turning Jacqueline's momentum against her. They crashed together in a tangle of fur and fangs, rolling across the arena floor. When they separated, May's wolf had Jacqueline's right foreleg in her jaws. Not hard enough to break bone, not yet. But the threat was clear. Jacqueline tried to pull away, but May's wolf held firm, her teeth tightening incrementally with each struggle. The message was obvious. Keep fighting, and lose the leg. Or submit, and walk away intact. For a moment, pride warred with survival instinct in Jacqueline's eyes. Then she went limp, her body language screaming submission. May released her immediately. Both wolves shifted back, and Jacqueline dropped to her knees just as Jana had. I submit to Luna May, Jacqueline said through gritted teeth. I acknowledge her right to lead. I apologize for my past behavior. Apology accepted, May said, swaying slightly from exhaustion. Rise, Jacqueline. And in the future, remember that intelligence wins more fights than pure aggression. 2 challenges down, May's body screamed for rest, but she forced herself to remain standing, to scan the crowd for signs of another challenger. A figure rose from the lower terraces. Henrietta Schmidt, her face pale but determined. Luna May, Henrietta said, her voice carrying an edge of desperation. I don't wish to challenge you. I wish to offer public apology, as Alpha Douglas commanded. May nodded, relief flooding through her. Speak. Henrietta descended to the arena floor, followed by Annette Booker. Both she-wolves dropped to their knees before May, their necks bared in the ultimate gesture of submission. Luna May, Henrietta began, her voice shaking. I have spent 7 years treating you with cruelty I cannot justify. I mocked your wolflessness. I diminished your worth. I took pleasure in your pain. And I was wrong. Profoundly, unforgivably wrong. I beg your forgiveness, not because I deserve it, but because I hope to learn from my mistakes and become worthy of serving you. I echo Henrietta's words, Annette added. We were cruel, thoughtless, and arrogant. We judged you for circumstances beyond your control. We failed to see the strength you demonstrated every day simply by surviving. We beg your mercy, Luna May. May looked down at them, these she-wolves who'd made her life hell, now kneeling in the dirt before her. 7 years ago, she would have given anything for this moment. For acknowledgement, for apology, for them to see her as more than a defective burden. But now, standing here with power thrumming through her veins, and her wolf purring with satisfaction, she found the victory hollow. Because their apologies didn't erase the years of pain, didn't undo the nights she'd cried herself to sleep, didn't heal the wounds they'd inflicted with their casual cruelty. But May's mother had taught her something important, that strength wasn't just about power. It was about choosing mercy when vengeance would be easier. I accept your apologies, May said quietly. But understand, acceptance isn't absolution. You'll need to prove through action, not just words, that you've changed. Starting tonight, you're both assigned to Omega duties for the next 3 months. You'll work alongside the wolves you once dismissed, and you'll learn what service really means. Henrietta's face crumpled with relief. Thank you, Luna May. We won't disappoint you. As they retreated, Douglas stepped forward, his expression fierce with pride. Are there any other challenges? He called to the crowd. Silence answered him. Then, by the authority vested in me as Alpha of Moonstone Pack, and witnessed by our assembled pack and visiting Alphas, I declare May Bernard to be officially recognized as Luna. Any wolf who disrespects her disrespects me. Any wolf who threatens her threatens the entire pack. She is your Luna, now and forever. The crowd erupted not with protest, but with howls of acceptance. The sound rolled across the amphitheater like thunder, hundreds of wolves acknowledging their new Luna. May's legs finally gave out. Douglas caught her before she hit the ground, sweeping her into his arms with ease. You did it, he murmured against her hair. You magnificent, stubborn, incredible woman. You actually did it. May's wolf purred with contentment, finally satisfied. We did it, she corrected, together. As Douglas carried her toward the pack house, the visiting alphas descended from their terrace. Virgil Bird was the first to reach them, his scarred face split by a genuine smile. Alpha Douglas, Virgil said formally. Congratulations on finding such a formidable mate. The Bernard bloodline rises again. Our packs should discuss alliance terms. I suspect the political landscape is about to shift significantly. Corey Pierce laughed, his golden eyes warm. Shift significantly? That's putting it mildly. If other Bernard descendants are out there dormant and waiting, we might be entering a new era. But it was Rodney McKee who made May's blood run cold with his next words. Luna May, Rodney said quietly, his ancient eyes boring into hers. Your emergence isn't coincidence. The moon goddess doesn't wake Bernard wolves without reason. Something is coming. Something that will require your power. I hope, for all our sakes, that you're ready for what's ahead. Then he was gone, melting back into the crowd, leaving May with questions she couldn't answer and a sense of foreboding she couldn't shake. But for tonight, none of that mattered. Tonight, she was Luna. Tonight, she had proven her worth. Tonight, she was finally home. Chapter 6. The Alpha's Suite. Douglas carried May through the pack house's grand entrance, past clusters of wolves who bowed their heads in respect as their new Luna passed. May's exhaustion was so profound she could barely keep her eyes open, but she forced herself to remain aware, to acknowledge each gesture of submission with a slight nod. Everything had changed in the span of a few hours. The servants who'd once ordered her around now stepped aside with murmured Luna May greetings. The hallways she'd scrubbed on her hands and knees now felt different beneath her, not as a servant traversing them, but as someone who belonged. Almost there, Douglas murmured, his arms steady beneath her. The mate bond hummed with his concern, his pride, and something deeper, a possessive tenderness that made May's wolf purr. They ascended the main staircase to the 4th floor, the Alpha's private wing. May had never been allowed up here. This was sacred territory, reserved for the pack's highest-ranking members. The hallway was lined with portraits of past Alphas and Lunas, their painted eyes seeming to track May's passage with varying degrees of approval. Douglas stopped before an ornate door at the corridor's end. It swung open at his touch, revealing a suite that made May's breath catch. The Alpha's quarters were stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the territory, offering a view of forests and mountains bathed in moonlight. The main living area featured plush furniture arranged around a massive fireplace, where flames danced and crackled. Doors led to what May assumed were a bedroom, bathroom, and office. But what struck her most was how lived-in it felt. Books were stacked on tables, training schedules pinned to a bulletin board, a pair of running shoes kicked off by the door. This wasn't a showpiece, this was Douglas's home. And now, apparently, it was hers too. Douglas set her down gently on the leather couch, then disappeared into the bedroom. He returned moments later with soft pajamas and a concerned expression. "You need food, a shower, and sleep," he said firmly. "In that order, don't argue." May opened her mouth to do exactly that, then closed it. Her body ached in places she didn't know could ache. Her head throbbed with sensory overload, and her stomach was cramping with hunger so intense it made her nauseous. "Food sounds good," she admitted quietly. Douglas pulled out his phone and sent a quick text. "Deanne is already preparing your favorites. She'll bring a tray up in 10 minutes. He sat beside May on the couch, careful not to crowd her. "How are you feeling?" "And I want the truth, not the brave Luna face." May let her head fall back against the cushions, too tired to maintain pretense. "Like I just fought 2 wolves while running on empty. Like my entire world has been turned upside down. Like I'm waiting for someone to tell me this is a dream and I'll wake up back in my basement room still wolfless and worthless." "You were never worthless." Douglas's hand found hers, their fingers intertwining. "And this isn't a dream, May. You're Luna now. This is your home. These are your quarters, ours, if you're willing to share them with me." The implication made May's heart skip. "You want me to live here? With you?" "We're mates," Douglas said simply. "The mate bond will only grow stronger with proximity. Traditionally, Alphas and Lunas share quarters. But..." He paused, his expression carefully neutral. "If you need time, if you want your own space, I can arrange rooms nearby. I won't pressure you into anything you're not ready for." May studied him, this powerful Alpha who'd turned her life upside down in a single day. He could demand anything from her, could use his Alpha authority to command her compliance. But instead, he was offering her choice. "I'll stay," May said quietly. "But Douglas, I need you to understand something. I've never..." She felt her face heat. "I've been so focused on survival that I never thought about relationships, romance, intimacy. I don't know how to be someone's mate." Douglas's expression softened. "Neither do I. I've been Alpha for 12 years, May. 12 years of wolves throwing their daughters at me, trying to secure political alliances through a mate bond. I've never been with anyone because none of them saw me. They saw a title, a position, a path to power." He squeezed her hand. "You're the first person who looks at me and sees a person, not a prize. So we'll figure this out together, at whatever pace you need." Before May could respond, a knock sounded at the door. Douglas opened it to reveal Deanne, carrying a tray laden with food: roasted chicken, fresh bread, vegetables, and a massive slice of chocolate cake. "For our Luna," Deanne said, her eyes misty as she set the tray on the coffee table. Who survived her first? Gathering like the warrior her mother raised her to be. Thank you, Deanne. May's throat tightened with emotion. For everything. For believing in me when no one else did. For keeping my mother's secrets until I was ready. Hush, child. Deanne cupped May's face in her weathered hands. You don't thank family for loving you. Now eat. You burned more energy tonight than most wolves use in a month. After Deanne left, May devoured the meal with an intensity that would have embarrassed her a day ago. But Douglas just watched with amused approval, occasionally stealing a piece of bread or vegetable from her plate. Your wolf is settling, he observed. I can feel her contentment through our bond. May paused mid-bite, turning her attention inward. He was right. Her wolf, who'd been prowling restlessly since the transformation had finally calmed, curled up contentedly in the back of May's mind. We're safe, her wolf murmured. Mate is strong. Territory is secure. Pack acknowledges us. Finally, we can rest. She's satisfied, May confirmed. Which is strange, considering we just made enemies of half the pack's high-ranking females. You didn't make enemies. Douglas leaned back, his expression thoughtful. You established dominance. There's a difference. Henrietta, Jana, Jacqueline, they'll never challenge you again because you proved you could destroy them but chose mercy instead. That's real power, May. Not the ability to crush opponents, but the wisdom to know when crushing isn't necessary. A comfortable silence settled between them as May finished eating. Through the windows, she could see wolves moving across the territory patrols conducting their nightly rounds. Young wolves playing near the training grounds. Elderly pack members gathered around outdoor fire pits. Her pack. Her responsibility. The weight of it crashed over her suddenly, stealing her breath. I don't know how to be Luna, May whispered. Tonight was just fighting. But actual leadership? Making decisions that affect 400 wolves? Managing pack resources, resolving disputes, representing Moonstone at interpack councils. She laughed bitterly. I can barely manage my own life, Douglas. How am I supposed to manage theirs? Douglas pulled her against his side, his arm wrapping around her shoulders. You learn. Same way I learned to be alpha. Through trial and error, through asking for help, through accepting that you won't always make the right choice but committing to making the best choice you can with the information available. What if I fail? What if I make a decision that gets wolves killed? Then you'll carry that weight, learn from it, and do better next time. His voice was gentle but firm. Leadership isn't about being perfect, May. It's about being present, being accountable, and being willing to put the pack's needs above your own comfort. And you've been doing that for 7 years, you just didn't have the title yet. May let his words sink in. Let his warmth and certainty seep into her bones. The mate bond pulsed between them. Stronger now than it had been even hours ago. Tell me about being alpha, she said softly. What's it really like? Douglas was quiet for a moment, his fingers absently stroking her arm. Lonely. Until today, profoundly lonely. Every decision I make affects hundreds of lives. Every mistake I make costs the pack. I can't show weakness, can't admit fear, can't let anyone see me struggle because alphas are supposed to be invincible. He laughed without humor. But I'm not invincible. I'm just a wolf, doing my best and hoping it's enough. You're more than enough, May said fiercely. This pack is thriving. Your territory is secure. Your wolves respect you. They fear me, Douglas corrected. Which is necessary for maintaining order. But respect and fear aren't the same thing. And I've spent 12 years building a reputation that keeps wolves in line through intimidation rather than genuine loyalty. He turned to look at her, his storm cloud eyes intense. That's what you bring to this partnership, May. Balance. You have the compassion and connection with pack members that I lack. Together we can lead them better than either of us could alone. The vulnerability in his admission made May's chest ache. She'd spent so long seeing Douglas as an untouchable force of nature that she'd forgotten he was just as flawed and uncertain as anyone else. I'm going to make so many mistakes, May warned. Good. Then we'll make them together. A yawn caught May off guard, her jaw cracking with the force of it. Douglas chuckled and stood, offering his hand. Shower, then bed. You're dead on your feet. The bathroom was as impressive as the rest of the sweet marble floors, a massive soaking tub, and a shower with multiple heads that looked like something from a luxury spa. Douglas showed her where the towels were kept, provided her with toiletries, and then tactfully retreated to give her privacy. May stood under the hot spray for long minutes, watching 7 years of servant grime and self-doubt wash away down the drain. Her body was covered in small cuts and bruises from the fights, but they were already healing. One advantage of having a wolf was accelerated recovery. When she finally emerged, wrapped in a towel with her hair dripping, she found the bedroom door ajar and soft light spilling out. May hesitated, suddenly uncertain about the sleeping arrangements. "You can have the bed," Douglas called from inside. "I'll take the couch." May pushed the door open. The bedroom was enormous, dominated by a king-sized bed that looked like it could comfortably sleep 4 people. Douglas stood by the closet, pulling out blankets. "Don't be ridiculous," May said before she could lose her nerve. "The bed is huge. We can share it without. We don't have to." She felt her face flame. "I just mean, I know what you mean." Douglas's smile was gentle. "And I appreciate the offer. But May, you've had an overwhelming day. The last thing you need is the pressure of sharing a bed with a mate you barely know. So I'll take the couch tonight, and we'll revisit sleeping arrangements when you're ready." The consideration in his gesture made May's throat tight. "Thank you," she whispered. After Douglas left, May changed into the pajamas he'd provided, soft cotton that smelled like him, pine and steel and safety. She climbed into the massive bed, sinking into sheets that felt like clouds after years of her thin basement mattress. She should have fallen asleep immediately. Her body was exhausted, her wolf content, her new reality finally settling into place. But her mind wouldn't stop churning. Rodney McKee's words haunted her. "Your emergence isn't coincidence. Something is coming. Something that will require your power." What had he meant? What could possibly need a Bernard Wolf's power? The territories had been at peace for 3 years. There were no wars brewing, no major threats on the horizon. Unless... A soft knock interrupted her spiraling thoughts. "May? Are you awake? Come in," she called. Douglas entered, carrying 2 mugs of tea. "Chamomile," he explained, handing her one. "Dean said it'll help you sleep." He settled on the edge of the bed, careful to maintain distance. "I could hear you thinking from the other room. Want to tell me what's bothering you?" May wrapped her hands around the warm mug. "What Rodney said. About something coming. Do you think he knows something we don't?" Douglas's expression darkened. "Rodney McKee is over 80 years old and has connections to packs across the continent. If anyone would have advance warning of trouble, it's him." He paused. "There have been rumors. Nothing concrete. But scouts from multiple territories have reported unusual activity at the northern borders." "What kind of activity?" "Rogue wolves gathering in larger numbers than normal. Organized movements rather than random wandering. And..." Douglas hesitated. "Disappearances. Pack members from outlying territories vanishing without trace." A chill ran down May's spine. "You think it's connected to my transformation?" "I think the moon goddess doesn't wake Bernard wolves for no reason. Your bloodline was created to fight threats that ordinary wolves couldn't handle. If your wolf emerged now, it might be because she knew you'd need that power soon." May set down her tea, her hands trembling slightly. "So I went from serving meals to potentially fighting some kind of supernatural threat? That's what you're suggesting?" "I'm suggesting," Douglas said carefully, "that we prepare for multiple possibilities, train you in combat, teach you to control your wolf's power, establish alliances with other packs in case we need backup, and most importantly," his hand found hers, "I'm suggesting that you're not alone in this. Whatever comes, we face it together." The certainty in his voice steadied her. May squeezed his hand, letting the mate bond's warmth drive back her fear. "Together," she agreed softly. Douglas leaned forward and pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead, chaste and respectful, but carrying the promise of deeper connection when she was ready. "Get some sleep, Luna. Tomorrow we start your real training." After he left, May finally felt her exhaustion pull her under. Her last conscious thought was of her mother's journal, the words that had changed everything. "Trust your mate when he finds you. The moon goddess doesn't make mistakes." For the first time in 23 years, May believed it. She wasn't broken. She wasn't cursed. She wasn't a mistake. She was exactly what she was always meant to be. And whatever was coming, whatever threat had prompted her wolf to finally emerge, she would be ready. Because she was May Bernard, descendant of the first wolves, Luna of Moonstone Pack. And her story was only beginning. Chapter 7. The Luna's Training. May woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, and the unfamiliar sensation of silk sheets against her skin. For a disorienting moment, She forgot where she was, then memory crashed back in a wave. The transformation. The gathering. The fights. She was Luna now. The thought still felt surreal. May sat up, wincing as muscles she didn't know she had protested the movement. Her body ached from yesterday's battles, but underneath the soreness, she felt different, stronger, more solid. As if her wolf's presence had fundamentally changed her physical structure. "Good morning," her wolf rumbled, stretching lazily in the back of May's mind. Ready to learn how to actually use this body. "I fought 2 wolves yesterday and won," May thought back defensively. "You won because they were overconfident, and I have good instincts. But real training? Against opponents who know what they're doing? You need to learn. Or you'll get us killed." The bedroom door opened, and Douglas entered carrying a tray laden with breakfast: scrambled eggs, bacon, fresh fruit, and coffee that smelled like heaven. "You're awake," he said, his smile transforming his harsh features. "I thought I'd have to physically drag you out of bed." May glanced at the clock on the nightstand. 7:30 in the morning. "Is that late for pack schedules?" "Not particularly, but we have a full day planned, and I wanted to make sure you ate properly first." He set the tray on the bed, then settled beside her, with easy familiarity. "How are you feeling?" "Sore. Overwhelmed. Like I'm still waiting for someone to tell me yesterday was a fever dream." Douglas's hand found hers. The mate bond sparking at the contact. Very real. And about to get more intense. "Today, we start your formal Luna training. Combat instruction with Terrence, pack management with Raphael, and diplomatic protocol with Evan, plus." He paused. "I want you to meet with some of the Omega Wolves this afternoon. Build relationships with pack members who've been overlooked. Show them their Luna sees them." May's chest tightened. "The Omegas, the wolves I used to work beside, who now need to learn you're their Luna, not their peer. It's going to be awkward, May. Some of them will resent your rise. Others will feel abandoned. You need to navigate those relationships carefully." The weight of responsibility pressed down on May's shoulders. She'd been Luna for less than 24 hours and already the complications were piling up. "Eat," Douglas commanded gently. "You can't lead on an empty stomach." They ate together in companionable silence, the morning sun painting the room in gold and amber. Through the windows, May could see wolves moving across the territory: morning patrols, training sessions, pack members starting their daily routines. Her pack, her responsibility. After breakfast, Douglas led her to a private training room in the pack house's basement, not the dank, mildew-smelling basement where she'd lived, but a reinforced facility designed for high-level combat training. Padded mats covered the floor, weapons lined the walls, and the space was large enough for wolves to shift and spar comfortably. Terrence waited for them, wearing training gear and an expression of businesslike focus. "Luna May, ready to learn how to fight like you mean it?" May bristled at the implication. "I won both challenges yesterday. Against she-wolves who underestimated you and had minimal combat experience," Terrence interrupted, not unkindly. "Jana Powers is a tournament fighter, yes, but tournaments have rules. Real threats don't. And Jacqueline Mullins is fast, but she's never faced life-or-death combat." He began wrapping his hands with training tape. "I'm going to teach you how to fight wolves who are bigger, stronger, more experienced, and absolutely committed to killing you. Because if the rumors about rogue activity are true, that's what's coming." Douglas squeezed May's shoulder. "I'll be back in 2 hours. Listen to Terrence. He kept me alive through the Northern Pack War when I was young and stupid." After Douglas left, Terrence's demeanor shifted from friendly beta to strict instructor. "First lesson. You rely too heavily on your size advantage. Your wolf is massive, which gives you natural dominance. But what happens when you face an opponent who's equally large? Or faster? Or more skilled?" "I adapt," May offered weakly. "You learn," Terrence corrected. "You learn proper form, efficient movement, how to read opponents, and exploit weaknesses. Shift for me. Let's see what we're working with." May shifted, her transformation smoother than yesterday. Within seconds her white wolf stood on the training mat, silver-veined eyes fixed on Terrence. He circled her slowly, assessing. "Your stance is too wide. It gives you stability but reduces mobility. Narrow it slightly there. Better. Your tail is too high, broadcasting aggression when sometimes you want to appear defensive. Lower it. Good. Now, when I move, I want you to mirror me. Stay facing me, maintain distance, but don't let me get behind you." For the next hour, Terrence drilled her relentlessly on basic positioning, movement, and spatial awareness. It was humbling. May's wolf was powerful, but Terrence demonstrated how easily a skilled opponent could use that power against her. You telegraph your attacks, he explained, after dodging her lunge for the 5th time. Your haunches tense a full second before you move. Any experienced fighter will see it coming and counter. You need to learn to mask your intentions. How? May shifted back to human form, frustrated and sweating. Practice. Repetition. Learning to move without thinking. Terrence tossed her a water bottle. Your instincts are good, Luna May. Your wolf has centuries of Bernard bloodline knowledge coded into her DNA. But instinct alone won't save you against organized enemies. You need technique to back up raw power. They worked for another hour practicing strikes, defensive maneuvers, how to use her size effectively without sacrificing speed. By the time Douglas returned, May was exhausted and covered in bruises despite Terrence's careful control. She's a fast learner, Terrence reported, his respect evident. Couple more weeks of intensive training, she'll be formidable, maybe even alpha level. She's already formidable, Douglas said firmly, pride radiating through the mate bond. But I agree she needs training. Keep working with her, Terrence. 2 hours every morning, more if she's willing. After a quick shower and lunch, Raphael led May to the pack house's administrative offices. Unlike the luxurious Alpha Suite or the training facilities, this area was purely functional desks covered in paperwork, computers, filing cabinets full of pack records. Luna duties aren't all fighting and public appearances, Raphael explained, gesturing to the organized chaos. Most of your time will be spent here, managing pack resources and welfare, supply distribution, conflict resolution, education oversight, healthcare coordination. The Alpha handles external threats and pack security. The Luna handles internal stability and member well-being. He pulled out a thick binder. These are the pack's current welfare cases. Elderly wolves needing assistance. Families struggling financially. Wolves with disabilities requiring accommodation. Orphaned pups needing foster placement. Your job is to review each case, determine appropriate pack support, and ensure no member falls through the cracks. May flipped through the binder, her heart sinking at the sheer volume. Dozens of wolves needing help, each case complex and requiring careful consideration. This is overwhelming, she admitted. Yes, Raphael agreed. Which is why you'll have a staff. Michelle is already organizing a team to assist you wolves with expertise in social services, education, healthcare. You won't do this alone, but you need to understand the issues so you can make informed decisions. They spent 2 hours reviewing cases, with Raphael explaining pack policies and procedures. May's head spun with information, budget allocations, resource management, interdepartmental coordination. The previous Luna, Raphael said carefully, Alpha Douglas's mother, she excelled at this. The pack ran smoothly under her guidance. When she died 8 years ago, Douglas tried to manage both Alpha and Luna duties, but he shook his head. It's too much for one wolf. The pack has suffered from lack of focused Luna attention. You'll need to rebuild systems she had in place. The weight of expectation pressed down on May. Not only did she need to prove herself worthy of the Luna title, she needed to fill shoes left empty by a beloved predecessor. I don't know if I can do this, May whispered. Raphael's expression softened. You've been doing versions of this for years. Every time you helped an Omega wolf struggling with their duties, you were managing pack welfare. Every time you mediated disputes between staff members, you were handling conflict resolution. Every time you bandaged pups' scraped knees when their parents were too busy, you were providing member support. You have the skills, Luna May. You just need to apply them at a larger scale. His words steadied her. Maybe she could do this. Maybe all those years of survival had been preparation for exactly this role. After the administrative session, Evan Summers appeared to torture May with diplomatic protocol. They relocated to a formal meeting room where he proceeded to quiz her on proper forms of address, pack hierarchy nuances, and the intricate dance of interpack politics. When visiting alphas arrive, you stand to Douglas's right, 1 step behind, Evan instructed. You acknowledge them with a nod but don't speak unless directly addressed. If they bring their Lunas, you greet them as equals, slight bow, no neck exposure. If they come alone, you maintain formal distance unless they initiate friendlier contact. Why so many rules? May asked, her head swimming. Because one wrong gesture can be interpreted as insult or challenge. Interpack relations are fragile, built on centuries of tradition and mutual wariness. As Luna, you represent Moonstone Pack's strength and stability. Any perceived weakness reflects on Douglas's leadership. They practiced various scenarios, greeting foreign dignitaries, responding to challenges, managing pack ceremonies. Evan was merciless, correcting even the smallest errors until May wanted to scream. By late afternoon, when Douglas finally rescued her from protocol hell, May was mentally and physically drained. "One more thing," Douglas said apologetically. "The Omegas are gathering in the common room. I need you to meet with them." May's stomach clenched. The Omegas, the wolves she'd worked beside for 7 years. Wolves who'd shared meals with her, complained about their duties, treated her as one of them. How would they react to her sudden elevation? The Omega common room was located on the pack house's ground floor, a large, comfortable space with worn furniture and walls covered in pack photos. About 30 wolves occupied the room, their conversation dying as May entered. She recognized every face. Deanne, of course, her weathered features warm with pride. But also, Jimmy Hunter, the groundskeeper who taught May about native plants. Frida Clay, the elderly she-wolf who managed laundry and had slipped May extra blankets during cold winters. Doug Mercer, the Omega male who defended May from harassment more than once. They all stared at her now with expressions ranging from joy to confusion to barely concealed resentment. May took a breath and stepped forward. "I know this is strange. Yesterday I was one of you. Today I'm your Luna. And I want to be clear about something. I haven't forgotten where I came from. I haven't forgotten the wolves who showed me kindness when no one else did. And I won't abandon you now that I have power." Silence greeted her words. Then Frida stood, her aged body trembling. "With respect, Luna May, how do we know that's true? How do we know you won't become like the other high-ranking wolves, treating us as invisible?" The question hung in the air, challenging and raw. May met Frida's eyes. "You don't know. I can make promises, but words are cheap. So instead, I'll show you. Starting today, Omega working conditions improve. Dean, you're officially head of household operations with authority to hire additional staff and increase wages. Jimmy, the territory maintenance budget triples. You'll finally get the equipment you've been requesting for years. Frida, you're retiring on full pack pension, and we're throwing you the celebration you deserve after 50 years of service." Gasps rippled through the room. "But Luna May," Deanne protested, "the Pack Council will never approve those budget increases." "The Pack Council answers to me," May interrupted firmly. "And I'm telling them that the wolves who keep this pack house running, who maintain our territory, who do the invisible work that makes everything else possible, those wolves deserve proper compensation and respect." Doug Mercer stood slowly, his expression cautious. That's really generous, Luna May. But what about the pack hierarchy? Omegas are bottom rank for a reason. We're not fighters or leaders. We're essential," May said forcefully. "You're essential. And any pack that doesn't recognize that is weak. Moonstone Pack will be stronger when every wolf, regardless of rank, feels valued and supported." She looked around the room, meeting each wolf's eyes. "I'm not asking you to forget I was one of you. I'm asking you to trust that I remember, and that I'll use my position to make sure no Omega ever feels as worthless as I was made to feel." The room erupted in emotion, some wolves cheering, others crying, a few still skeptical but visibly moved. Deanne crossed the room and pulled May into a fierce embrace. "Your mother would be so proud," she whispered. After the Omega meeting, Douglas found May sitting alone in the Alpha Suite's living room, staring out at the darkening territory. "That was well done," he said quietly, settling beside her. "The Omegas have been neglected for too long. Your mother used to prioritize them. She understood that pack strength comes from every member, not just the warriors." "I made big promises," May said. "Can I actually deliver? Will the Pack Council approve those budget changes?" "The Pack Council will approve whatever I tell them to approve, and I'm telling them to support your initiatives." Douglas's arm wrapped around her shoulders. "You're thinking like a Luna already, May. Identifying problems and implementing solutions. That's what leadership is." May leaned into his warmth, exhaustion finally catching up with her. "This is so much harder than I expected. Fighting is simple, you win or lose. But this? Making decisions that affect hundreds of lives? It's terrifying." "Welcome to leadership," Douglas said with dark humor. "It only gets more terrifying from here." They sat in comfortable silence as night fell across the territory. Through the windows, May could see the full moon rising, the same moon that had witnessed her transformation, her trials, her rise to power. We survived today, her wolf murmured contentedly. Tomorrow will be stronger. May hoped her wolf was right, because something told her that the easy part was over, and the real challenges were only beginning. Chapter 8. The Rogue Warning. 3 weeks passed in a blur of training, administrative work, and slowly settling into her role as Luna. May's body adapted to the rigorous schedule, mornings with Terrence learning combat techniques, afternoons managing pack welfare cases with Raphael's guidance, evenings studying diplomatic protocol with Evan. Her wolf grew stronger with each passing day, more confident, more controlled. But the nights belonged to Douglas. They'd fallen into an easy routine dinner together in the Alpha Suite, quiet conversation while the territory settled into sleep, gradually learning each other's rhythms and histories. The mate bond deepened with each shared moment, weaving them together in ways that went beyond physical attraction. They still hadn't consummated the bond. Douglas never pushed, never demanded, content to let their relationship develop naturally. But May felt the pull growing stronger, the desire to complete what the moon goddess had started, to fully claim and be claimed by her mate. Tonight, that tension hummed between them as they sat on the suite's balcony, watching the territory under moonlight. "You're getting better," Douglas said, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. "Terrence says you landed 3 solid hits on him today." He was actually impressed. May smiled, despite her exhaustion. "He was going easy on me." "He wasn't. I watched the last 15 minutes. You're learning to mask your attacks, use your speed efficiently. Another month and you'll be able to hold your own against most beta-level wolves." The pride in his voice made May's chest warm. She'd never imagined being described as a capable fighter, had spent her entire life believing physical combat was beyond her capabilities. "Douglas," May said carefully, "what happens if the rogue situation escalates? If Rodney McKee's warnings come true and we face real threats?" Douglas's expression darkened. "Then we fight. Together. The visiting alphas have agreed to a mutual defense pact. If one territory is attacked, the others respond." "But..." He hesitated. "But what?" "But traditional rogue attacks don't explain why a Bernard wolf would need to emerge. Your bloodline was created to fight supernatural threats, May. Things that ordinary wolves can't handle. Demons, dark magic. Creatures from the old stories. If your wolf woke up now, it suggests we're facing something worse than just organized rogues." A chill ran down May's spine. "You think there's something supernatural involved?" "I think we should be prepared for anything." Before May could respond, her wolf suddenly surged forward with a growl of warning. At the same moment, Douglas's entire body went rigid, his eyes flashing gold. "Something's wrong," they said in unison. Douglas's phone erupted with alerts. He answered Terrence's call on the first ring. "Report." Through the phone, May could hear shouting, growls, and the unmistakable sounds of combat. "Alpha, we have a situation at the eastern border. A rogue wolf crossed into our territory, but Douglas, it's not normal. This wolf is wrong. Corrupted somehow. It attacked the patrol without provocation, and when they tried to subdue it, a scream cut through the phone connection, followed by Terrence's curse. It just killed Christopher Wagner, tore his throat out before anyone could react. This thing moves like nothing I've ever seen. We need backup, now." Douglas was already moving, stripping off his shirt as he ran for the door. May followed without thought, her wolf demanding they protect their pack. "Stay here," Douglas commanded, his alpha authority crackling in his voice. May's wolf snarled in defiance. "Like hell. That's my pack too, my responsibility." Douglas stopped, turning to face her. For a moment, she thought he'd argue, use his alpha will to force her compliance. But then his expression shifted to something fierce and proud. Then shift. "We run together." They transformed in the hallway, their wolves emerging in fluid movements. Douglas's wolf was massive and dark, all coiled power and lethal grace. Beside him, May's white wolf looked like moonlight given solid form. "Follow me," Douglas's wolf commanded through their mate bond. "Stay close. Don't engage until I assess the threat." They burst from the pack house at full speed, racing across the territory toward the eastern border. Other wolves joined them, Raphael and his security team, several high-ranking warriors, even some of the younger pack members eager to defend their home. The eastern border was marked by a ridge overlooking a valley where packlands met unclaimed wilderness. When they crested the ridge, May's wolf skidded to a halt, her hackles rising instinctively. The scene below was carnage. Christopher Wagner's body lay motionless on the ground, his throat a ruin of torn flesh. 3 other patrol wolves were injured, trying to contain a creature that barely resembled a wolf anymore. The rogue was male, massive, and covered in matted black fur. But something was fundamentally wrong with it. Its eyes glowed with sickly red light instead of natural wolf gold. Black veins spiderwebbed across its exposed skin like infection. And its movements, they were too fast, too jerky, like a puppet being manipulated by unskilled hands. "That's not just a rogue," May's wolf whispered, her ancient instincts screaming danger. "That's been corrupted. Twisted by dark magic." Douglas's wolf approached cautiously, his dominance rolling off him in waves. The corrupted wolf should have recognized superior authority and submitted, but instead, it turned those red eyes toward Douglas and laughed a sound no wolf throat should be capable of making. "Alpha Douglas," the thing spoke, its voice distorted and multitonal. "The Bernard wolf has awakened." "How? Predictable. My master will be pleased." Douglas's wolf snarled, fangs bared. "Who is your master?" "Someone who remembers the old ways. Someone who knows what the Bernard bloodline truly is." Those red eyes shifted to May. "And someone who will reclaim what was stolen from him centuries ago." Before anyone could react, the corrupted wolf lunged, not at Douglas, but at May. It moved with supernatural speed, closing the distance in a heartbeat. May's training kicked in automatically. She dodged left, using her superior size to deflect rather than absorb the impact. But the creature's claws raked across her shoulder, and the pain was unlike anything she'd experienced. It burned. The wound felt like acid had been poured into her flesh, and May's wolf howled in agony. Douglas's roar shook the valley. He crashed into the corrupted wolf with the force of an avalanche, his jaws closing around its throat. But the creature twisted impossibly, its spine bending in ways that should have snapped bone, and raked its claws across Douglas's face. The alpha staggered back, blood streaming from 3 deep gashes. "Everyone back," Douglas commanded through the pack bond. "This thing is beyond normal combat capability." But May's wolf wasn't listening. The pain in her shoulder was transforming into something else. A cold rage that came from her Bernard bloodline, from centuries of wolves who'd fought creatures exactly like this. "That's dark magic," her wolf explained, her tone deadly calm. "Corruption from the shadow realm. Normal wolves can't fight it because they don't have the proper defenses. But we do. Bernard wolves were created specifically to combat this kind of threat." May's wolf stepped forward, silver light beginning to emanate from her fur, the same light that had exploded during her first transformation. The corrupted wolf noticed and actually looked uncertain for the first time. "You don't know how to use that power," it hissed. "You just transformed weeks ago. You're a child playing with weapons you don't understand." "Maybe," May's wolf agreed. "But let's find out together." She lunged, and this time when the corrupted wolf tried to dodge, it found itself unable to move. Silver light had wrapped around its legs like chains, holding it in place. How the creature's confusion was palpable. "Bernard wolves don't just have physical power," May's wolf explained, circling the trapped creature. "We have the moon goddess's blessing. We can manipulate the light she provides, and corruption, true darkness, can't exist where her light shines." May's wolf didn't know how she knew this. The knowledge simply existed in her DNA, passed down through generations of Bernard wolves who'd served as the goddess's guardians. She opened her jaws and silver light poured from her throat, engulfing the corrupted wolf in radiance so intense that every wolf watching had to shield their eyes. The creature screamed a sound of pure agony that echoed across the valley. Its corrupted flesh began to burn away, the black veins dissolving under the assault of holy light. "My master will come," it gasped with its last breath. "He remembers what you are, he knows what you can do. And he will reclaim the power your bloodline stole from him. Tell the Bernard wolf, tell her she's marked. She's his now." Then the creature dissolved completely, leaving nothing but ash that scattered on the night wind. The silver light faded, and May's wolf collapsed, her legs giving out. The wound on her shoulder still burned, but the pain was manageable now. Douglas's wolf was at her side instantly, whining with concern. "Are you hurt?" "That thing." "I'm fine," May assured him, though she wasn't entirely certain that was true. "But Douglas, what did it mean? What power did my bloodline supposedly steal?" Before he could answer, Terrence's wolf approached Christopher Wagner's body, his grief palpable through the pack bond. "Christopher's gone. That thing killed him in seconds." The weight of it crashed over May. A pack member dead. because of some threat connected to her bloodline, her heritage, her existence. This isn't your fault, Douglas said firmly through their bond, sensing her guilt. This is the work of whoever sent that corrupted wolf. And we will find them. We will make them pay. Raphael shifted to human form, his expression grim. Alpha. We need to increase border patrols. If that thing could cross into our territory undetected, there might be others. Agreed. Triple the patrols, establish watchtowers at key points, and I want magical wards reinforced. Douglas looked at May's wolf, his eyes soft with concern. And we need to find out more about Bernard bloodline history. Whatever power that creature referenced, May needs to understand what she's capable of, and who might be targeting her because of it. They returned to the pack house in somber procession, carrying Christopher's body and supporting the injured patrol wolves. The entire pack had been alerted to the breach, and wolves lined the pathways, their expressions ranging from fear to anger to determination. May shifted back to human form in the Alpha suite. Her shoulder wound still visible, 3 parallel gashes that glowed faintly with residual dark energy. That's not healing, Douglas observed, his jaw tight as he examined the injury. Normal wounds should close within hours for a wolf. This is magical corruption. It's fighting your natural healing. The Bernard light burned most of it away, May said, wincing as Douglas carefully cleaned the wound. But some of it got into my bloodstream. I can feel it, like poison working through my system. We need a healer. Someone who understands dark magic and can... No. May's wolf surged forward, her instincts clear. Normal healers can't touch this kind of corruption. It'll spread to them. Only Bernard wolves have immunity to shadow magic. I need to purge it myself. How? Douglas demanded. You've been shifted for 3 weeks, May. You can't possibly know. My wolf knows. May closed her eyes, turning her attention inward. Her wolf was right, the knowledge was there, coded into her DNA like instinct. I need to meditate, channel the moon goddess's light through my body, and burn out the corruption from the inside. That sounds incredibly dangerous. So is letting dark magic fester in my bloodstream. May met his eyes, seeing her own fear reflected back. Trust me, Douglas. Trust that my wolf knows what she's doing. He wanted to argue, she could see it in the tension of his jaw, the tightness around his eyes. But finally, he nodded. Fine. But I'm staying with you. If something goes wrong, you'll know through the mate bond, May finished. And you can pull me back if necessary. She settled on the floor in a meditation position, closing her eyes and breathing deeply. Her wolf guided her consciousness inward, toward the corruption spreading through her veins like black ink in water. Focus on the light, her wolf instructed. Remember what it felt like when we transformed. Remember the silver radiance that came from within. That's the moon goddess's blessing, and it's the only thing strong enough to burn away shadow corruption. May focused, calling forth that inner light. It came slowly at first, a faint glow in her chest that gradually spread through her body. Wherever the light touched the corruption, the dark energy recoiled, hissing and writhing like a living thing. The pain was excruciating. May's body convulsed as holy light and dark magic warred inside her, each trying to destroy the other. She heard Douglas's voice from far away, felt his hands gripping her shoulders, but she couldn't respond. All her concentration was focused on the internal battle. More light, her wolf demanded. We need more. Channel everything the goddess gave us. May drew deeper, pulling on reserves she didn't know existed. The silver light intensified, flooding every cell, every molecule, burning away the corruption with merciless efficiency. And then, finally, the darkness broke. The corruption dissolved into nothing, leaving only clean tissue and the fading glow of divine light. May opened her eyes to find Douglas cradling her, his face streaked with tears she'd never thought to see on an alpha. Don't ever do that again, he said hoarsely. You stopped breathing for 30 seconds. I thought I'd lost you. I'm okay, May whispered, though her body felt like she'd been hit by a truck. The corruption is gone. I'm okay. Douglas pulled her against his chest, his heart hammering against her ear. We need answers. We need to know what that creature meant about your bloodline stealing power. Because May... His voice cracked. Because whoever sent that thing knows exactly what you are. And they're coming for you. May closed her eyes, exhaustion pulling at her consciousness. But even as sleep claimed her, one thought echoed through her mind. The real fight hadn't even started yet. And when it did, she needed to be ready. Chapter 9. The Ancient Truth. May woke to find herself in bed with Douglas curved protectively around her, his arm draped across her waist. Sunlight streamed through the windows, suggesting she'd slept through the night, and well into the morning. Her shoulder ached, but the wound had finally closed, leaving 3 pale scars that looked years old rather than hours. Douglas stirred as she moved, his eyes opening immediately, and Alpha's reflexes never fully at rest. "How do you feel?" "Like I went 10 rounds with a supernatural nightmare." May touched the scars gingerly. "But alive. The corruption is gone." Douglas's hand covered hers, his expression haunted. "You stopped breathing, May. Your heart stopped for several seconds. I felt you dying through the mate bond, and there was nothing I could do except watch and pray to the moon goddess that you'd come back." The raw vulnerability in his admission made May's chest ache. She turned in his arms, facing him fully. "I'm sorry. I didn't realize it would be that intense. But Douglas, we learned something important. I can purge shadow corruption. If other wolves get infected, I can help them. At the cost of nearly dying yourself? Not acceptable." His jaw clenched. "We need to find another way. We need to understand what we're facing and why your bloodline is specifically targeted." A knock at the door interrupted them. Terrence's voice came through, apologetic but urgent. "Alpha. Luna, you need to see this. Now." They dressed quickly and found Terrence waiting in the living area with a leather-bound book that looked ancient enough to crumble at a touch. Deanne stood beside him, her expression grave. "After last night," Deanne began without preamble, "I went digging through storage. Found this in a trunk that belonged to May's mother, one of the few possessions Karen brought with her when she transferred here. It's a Bernard family history, dating back centuries." She handed the book to May with trembling hands. The leather cover was embossed with the same white wolf symbol that decorated May's Luna dress. When May opened it, the pages crackled with age, the ink faded but still legible. Douglas read over her shoulder as May found the relevant passage. "The Bernard bloodline was not always blessed. Once, we were ordinary wolves, powerful. Yes, but no different from any other alpha lineage. But in the year 1247, when darkness threatened to consume all wolf kind, our ancestor Helena Bernard made a bargain with the moon goddess herself. The Shadow King, an entity of pure corruption from the void between worlds, had begun spreading his influence across the territories. His power turned wolves into mindless servants, corrupted their very souls, and threatened to extinguish the light the goddess had given her children. Helena offered herself as the goddess's champion, in exchange for the power to fight the Shadow King. She agreed to bear a curse that all Bernard descendants would be born without their wolves, that they would have to earn their transformations through suffering and strength, that their power would come at great personal cost. The goddess accepted the bargain. She blessed Helena with divine light, the very essence of her own power, making Helena immune to corruption and capable of destroying shadow-touched creatures. Helena led the wolf armies against the Shadow King, and, after a battle that lasted 3 days and 3 nights, she sealed him away in the void. But the Shadow King swore vengeance. He cursed the Bernard line, promising that he would one day return and reclaim the power Helena had been granted, that he would corrupt every Bernard descendant and use their divine light for his own purposes. For 700 years, the Bernard line has stood vigilant. We bear our curse with pride, knowing that our suffering purchases the safety of all wolves. We are the goddess's guardians, the first and last defense against darkness itself." May's hands shook as she closed the book. "The Shadow King, that's what the creature meant. He's coming back, and he wants the power my ancestors stole from him." "Not stole," Douglas corrected firmly. "Helena saved the entire wolf world. She sacrificed herself and all her descendants to protect everyone else. That's not theft, that's heroism." "But now he's awakened," Terrence said grimly. "And somehow he knows May exists, knows she's transformed. Which means he's been watching," Raphael said, appearing in the doorway with Michelle beside him, waiting for a Bernard wolf to emerge so he could make his move. Michelle stepped forward, her expression troubled. "I've been researching historical records at Alpha Douglas's request. There are patterns. Every time a Bernard wolf transforms, strange events follow. Corrupted wolves appearing, shadows moving independently of their sources, pack members vanishing without trace." She pulled out a tablet showing compiled data. The last documented Bernard transformation was May's mother, Karen, 33 years ago. Within 6 months of her transformation, the Northern Territory War began, supposedly over resource disputes, but the historical records mention shadow-touched wolves fighting alongside the Northern rogues. "My mother fought in that war," May said quietly. "She never talked about it. but I found her medals after she died. She was decorated for valor, for leading critical battles, because she was fighting corrupted wolves, Douglas realized. Fighting the Shadow King's influence. And she drove him back into dormancy. But now, with her gone and May newly transformed, he sees an opportunity, May finished. A young Bernard wolf who doesn't know her full capabilities, who hasn't been trained in the old ways. I'm vulnerable. An easy target. Dean pulled out another document from the trunk, a letter in Karen's handwriting, addressed to May. My dearest daughter, if you're reading this, my worst fears have come true. You've transformed, and the Shadow King has returned. I'm so sorry, May. I prayed that you would live your entire life without your wolf emerging. That you would be spared the burden our bloodline carries. But the goddess has other plans. You must understand something crucial. The Shadow King cannot be killed. He is eternal darkness given form, and as long as shadows exist, so will he. But he can be sealed away, contained in the void where he belongs. The key to sealing him lies in 3 sacred sites scattered across the territories, places where the moon goddess's power is strongest. If a Bernard wolf can reach all 3 sites and activate the ancient wards, the Shadow King will be forced back into imprisonment for another generation. But May, you cannot do this alone. You will need allies, other alphas who understand the threat and are willing to risk their packs to fight alongside you. You will need to master abilities you've only just discovered. And most importantly, you will need to survive long enough to complete the ritual. The Shadow King will send everything he has to stop you. Corrupted wolves, shadow creatures, perhaps even possessed pack members who don't realize they're being controlled. Trust no one except your mate. The mate bond is divine, uncorruptible. Let your alpha guide and protect you. I wish I could be there to help. To train you in the old ways, to stand beside you in battle. But if you're reading this, I'm gone. So instead, I'll tell you what my mother told me. Bernard wolves are not cursed. We are blessed. Blessed with the ability to stand between darkness and light. Blessed with the strength to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Blessed with the privilege of serving something greater than ourselves. Be brave, my love. Be strong. And know that every Bernard woman who came before you is watching, cheering, lending you their strength across the veil. You are not alone. You have never been alone. All my love, Mom. Tears streamed down May's face as she finished reading. Her mother had known this day would come, had tried to prepare May as best she could from beyond death. Douglas's arm wrapped around her shoulders, his presence steady and grounding. 3 sacred sites. We need to identify them and create a plan to reach them safely. The Moonstone Ridge, Dean said immediately. Where the pack was founded 400 years ago. That's one, I'm certain of it. The ridge has always had unusual properties. Wounds heal faster there, wolves feel stronger. Corruption can't take root. Raphael nodded slowly. The Silverfall Caverns in Eastern Territory. Alpha Corey mentioned them when he visited, said they're considered holy ground, that shadow creatures won't approach within a mile of the entrance. And the Celestial Grove in Coastal Territory, Michelle added. Alpha Rodney's pack considers it their most sacred site. Legend says the moon goddess herself walked there during the first full moon after creation. 3 sites across 3 territories, Douglas said grimly. Which means we'll need permission from the other alphas to access them. And we'll need to transport May safely across hostile territory while the Shadow King's forces try to stop us. It's suicide, Terrence said bluntly. Even with alpha cooperation, moving Luna May through that much open ground, she'll be a target every step of the way. Then we make her a moving fortress, Raphael countered. Full security detail. Magical wards. Constant patrol coverage. We turn this into a military operation. How long do we have? May asked, finding her voice finally. Before the Shadow King's influence becomes too strong to contain? Dean's expression was grave. According to the family histories, once a Bernard wolf transforms, the Shadow King has approximately 6 months to either corrupt or kill her before the goddess's blessing fully manifests. After 6 months, Bernard wolves become functionally immune to his influence, too powerful for him to touch directly. So he's on a deadline, Douglas said, which means he'll escalate. The corrupted wolf last night was probably just a test, seeing what May could do. The real assaults will come soon. May stood, exhaustion forgotten, her wolf rising with fierce determination. Then we don't wait for him to attack, we take the offensive. We start with Moonstone Ridge, it's in our territory, so we can access it safely. Activate the ward there, then move to the next site while he's still regrouping. May. You nearly died last night purging one corrupted wolf's poison. Douglas protested. You need time to recover. To train. We don't have time. May turned to face him, her eyes flashing gold. Every day we wait, he gets stronger. More pack members die. More wolves get corrupted. Christopher Wagner died, because I wasn't prepared. I won't let anyone else pay that price. Douglas stared at her for a long moment, conflict clear on his face. Then, slowly, he nodded. All right. We move on your timeline. But we do this smart, full preparation, maximum security, and at the first sign you're overwhelmed, we retreat. Understood? Understood. May looked around the room at the wolves who'd become her advisors, her friends, her family. When can we reach Moonstone Ridge? Tonight, Terrence said. It's a 3-hour run in wolf form. Less if we push. But Alpha, if we're doing this, we need to inform the pack council. This is bigger than just Luna May's personal safety, this affects the entire pack. Agreed. Call an emergency council meeting for noon. I'll present the situation and make it clear that any wolf who wants to stay behind has my blessing. But those who come. Douglas's expression hardened. Those who come need to understand they're going into battle against forces that don't play by normal rules. As the others departed to make preparations, May remained standing by the window, staring out at the territory she'd sworn to protect. Somewhere out there, the Shadow King was gathering his forces, planning his next attack, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. But May wasn't the frightened, powerless Maid anymore. She was Luna May Bernard, descendant of Helena Bernard, bearer of the moon goddess's blessing. And she would stand between her pack and the darkness, no matter the cost. We're ready, her wolf confirmed, her presence fierce and unwavering. Let him come. Let him see what happens when you threaten a Bernard woman's family. Douglas's hand found hers, their fingers intertwining. Whatever happens tonight at the ridge, he said quietly. I want you to know something. Finding you, my mate, my Luna, my equal, it's the greatest gift the moon goddess has ever given me. And I will stand beside you against any threat, face any danger, survive any trial. Because you're not alone in this fight, May. You will never be alone again. May squeezed his hand, the mate bond thrumming with shared determination and something deeper, something that felt dangerously close to love. Together, she said softly. Always, Douglas promised. And as they stood there, united against the gathering storm, May felt something shift in the universe. A recognition from the moon goddess herself that her guardian had finally awakened. The real battle was about to begin. But for the first time in her life, May Bernard wasn't afraid. She was ready. Chapter 10. The Moonstone Ritual. The pack council meeting was tense and charged with an energy that made May's wolf pace restlessly. 12 council members sat around the ancient oak table in the pack house's formal meeting chamber, powerful wolves who'd served Moonstone Pack for decades, their expressions ranging from skeptical to outright hostile. May stood beside Douglas at the head of the table, acutely aware that many of these wolves had watched her scrub their floors just weeks ago. Now she was asking them to risk everything based on centuries-old legends and her mother's cryptic warnings. Let me understand this correctly, said Clinton Archer, the council's eldest member at 78 years old. His silver hair and scarred face spoke of a lifetime of battles. You're claiming that Luna May's bloodline is responsible for protecting all wolves from some ancient evil called the Shadow King, and that this entity has returned specifically to target her. That's exactly what I'm claiming, Douglas said firmly. Christopher Wagner's death last night proves it. That corrupted wolf was no ordinary rogue. It spoke of its master, referenced May's bloodline specifically, and demonstrated abilities no natural wolf possesses. Or, suggested Ricky Kelly, a middle-aged male with political aspirations everyone knew about. It was simply a diseased rogue that got lucky with its attack. We're basing this entire crisis on legends and the writings of a dead she-wolf. With all due respect to Luna May's mother, how do we know these sacred sites even exist? That activating them will accomplish anything? May stepped forward, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Because I felt the corruption in my own body last night. I felt shadow magic trying to consume me from the inside, and the only thing that stopped it was the divine light my bloodline carries. That's not legend, Counselor Kelly. That's reality. The Luna raises a valid point, said Kevin Robison, the pack's lead healer. I examined her this morning. Those scars on her shoulder, they're unlike any wound I've seen in 40 years of healing work. They carry residual magical energy that shouldn't exist according to everything we understand about wolf physiology. Then we have a new type of disease to study, Ricky argued. not evidence of some apocalyptic supernatural threat. Douglas's alpha authority slammed down on the room like a physical force, making every wolf instinctively bare their necks in submission. Enough. I didn't call this meeting to debate whether the threat is real. I called it to inform you that tonight, I'm taking a security detail to Moonstone Ridge, where Luna May will attempt to activate the first sacred ward. Any wolf who wishes to volunteer for this mission is welcome. Any wolf who doesn't stay here and maintain normal territory security. You're putting the entire pack at risk for an untested theory, Ricky pressed, apparently willing to challenge even an angry alpha. If Luna May is wrong, if these wards don't exist or don't work, you'll have exposed her to attack for nothing. The Shadow King, if he exists, will know exactly where to find her. He already knows where to find her, May said quietly. He sent a corrupted wolf directly into our territory. He killed one of our pack members. Whether we act tonight or wait, he's coming for me. The only question is whether we face him on our terms or his. Silence fell over the council chamber as her words sank in. Finally, Clinton Archer stood, his aged body straightening with warrior's pride. Luna May speaks truth. If this threat exists, waiting only gives it time to grow stronger. If it doesn't exist, we've wasted one night investigating. I'll volunteer for the security detail. As will I, Kevin added. If there's even a chance Luna May is right, we owe it to Christopher Wagner's memory to try. One by one, other council members volunteered, some with enthusiasm, others with reluctant acceptance. Only Ricky Kelly remained seated, his expression sour. You're making a mistake, he said. And when this fails, when we've lost more pack members chasing fairy tales, remember that I warned you. Douglas's eyes flashed dangerously. Noted. Now get out. You've made your position clear, and you're not welcome on this mission. After the meeting dissolved, preparations moved with military efficiency. Terrence organized a security detail of 20 wolves, the pack's most skilled fighters, including several who'd served in the Northern Territory War alongside May's mother. Raphael coordinated with the scouts, establishing a perimeter around Moonstone Ridge, and setting up early warning systems in case corrupted wolves attempted to interfere. Michelle worked with the pack's few magic users to create protective wards not as powerful as what May's bloodline could supposedly generate, but enough to provide some defense against shadow corruption. And Deanne pulled May aside as the sun began its descent toward the horizon, pressing a small silver pendant into her hands. This belonged to your mother, Deanne said, her voice thick with emotion. She wore it during every battle, every challenge, every moment when she needed to remember who she was and what she fought for. It's a Bernard family heirloom, passed down through generations of women who stood against the darkness. May examined the pendant, a delicate silver wolf with eyes made of tiny moonstone chips. When she held it, warmth spread through her palm, and her wolf hummed with recognition. Mother's scent, her wolf whispered, still clinging to the metal after all these years. She was strong. We can be stronger. Thank you, May said, fastening the pendant around her neck. For everything, Deanne. For keeping my mother's secrets. For believing in me when no one else did. Deanne pulled her into a fierce embrace. For being the daughter I never had. For making an old woman's last years meaningful. For reminding this pack what true strength looks like. She pulled back, tears glistening in her weathered eyes. Your mother would be so proud of you, May. The woman you've become, the Luna you're becoming, she'd be bursting with pride. As sunset painted the sky in shades of amber and crimson, the security detail assembled in the courtyard, 20 wolves in their prime, armed and alert, ready to protect their Luna with their lives. Douglas stood at the center, his commanding presence radiating confidence and authority. But when he looked at May, his expression softened into something tender and vulnerable. Last chance to change your mind, he said quietly, just for her. We can wait, gather more information, train you further. We can't wait, May interrupted gently. You know we can't. Every day the Shadow King grows stronger, more wolves get corrupted, more pack members die. This has to happen tonight. Douglas cupped her face in his hands, his thumb brushing across her cheekbone. Then, promise me something. If it gets too dangerous, if you're overwhelmed, you'll let me pull you out. Promise me you won't sacrifice yourself trying to be a hero. I promise to be smart, May said carefully. To listen to my instincts and retreat if necessary. But Douglas, I also promise to do whatever it takes to protect this pack. Even if that means taking risks you're not comfortable with. He wanted to argue, she could see it in the tension of his jaw, the tightness around his eyes. But finally, He nodded and pressed a kiss to her forehead. Then let's go activate a sacred ward and show the Shadow King what happens when he threatens a Bernard woman. They shifted in unison, 22 wolves transforming under the dying light. May's white form gleamed like a beacon among the darker pelts, drawing every eye. Some wolves looked at her with awe, others with uncertainty, but all with a respect that had been earned through blood and courage. Stay in formation, Douglas commanded through the pack bond. Luna May, at the center, security details surrounding her in concentric circles. Move fast but stay alert. If anyone senses corruption or shadow presence, report immediately. They ran. The territory blurred past as 22 wolves moved as one coordinated unit. May had never experienced pack running like this. The synchronization of movement, the shared awareness through the pack bond, the sense of being part of something larger than herself. This was what it meant to be Luna. Not just fighting for the pack, but running with them, breathing with them, being so fundamentally connected that individual identity blurred into collective purpose. Moonstone Ridge rose in the distance, a natural formation of silvery gray stone that caught and reflected moonlight in ways that seemed almost magical. The ridge stretched for nearly a mile, its highest point crowned with an ancient stone circle that predated the pack's founding. As they approached, May's wolf felt something. A pull, like invisible strings drawing her toward the summit. Her mother's pendant grew warm against her chest, humming with energy. The sacred site, her wolf confirmed. I can feel the goddess's presence here. This is where we need to be. They climbed the ridge in tight formation, every wolf alert for threats. The moon had risen now, full and brilliant, bathing the stone circle in silver radiance. When they reached the summit, May shifted back to human form. Douglas shifted beside her, along with Terence and Raphael, while the other wolves maintained their guard positions. The stone circle consisted of 12 massive standing stones, arranged in a perfect ring. Each stone was carved with symbols. May didn't recognize ancient pack language. Maybe. Or something older. In the circle's center stood a flat altar stone, its surface worn smooth by centuries of weather and use. What do you need to do? Douglas asked quietly. May closed her eyes, reaching for the knowledge coded in her DNA. Her wolf guided her consciousness, pulling up memories that belonged to ancestors long dead. I need to stand in the center, May said, opening her eyes. Place my hands on the altar, and channel the divine light. Let it flow through me into the stone, into the earth, into the wards that were placed here centuries ago. The light will activate dormant protections and create a barrier that shadow corruption can't cross. How long will it take? I don't know. The memories are fragmented. Could be minutes, could be hours. Then we hold as long as necessary, Terence said firmly. May walked to the altar. Every step, feeling momentous. When she placed her hands on the cool stone, power surged through her, the accumulated energy of 700 years of Bernard women who'd stood in this exact spot, renewing the wards, maintaining the barriers between light and darkness. She could feel them. Helena Bernard, the first. Karen Bernard, her mother. Dozens of others whose names had been lost to time but whose strength remained, embedded in the very stones beneath her feet. We're with you, they whispered across the veil. Channel our power. Complete what we started. May called forth her light. It came easier now than it had during the corruption purge, a silver radiance that poured from her hands into the altar stone. The stone began to glow, its surface lighting up with the same ancient symbols carved into the standing stones. Then those stones began to glow too, one by one, until the entire circle blazed with silver light. And that's when the Shadow King's forces attacked. They came from the darkness beyond the ridge, not individual corrupted wolves, but dozens of them. Shadow creatures that were barely wolf-shaped anymore. Their forms twisted and wrong. Their eyes glowing with that sickly red light. Defensive positions, Douglas roared, his alpha authority cutting through the pack bond. Do not let them reach Luna May. The security detail met the assault with coordinated ferocity. 20 wolves against at least 50 corrupted creatures, impossible odds by any conventional measure. But these weren't conventional wolves. These were Moonstone Pack's finest, fighting to protect their Luna, their territory, their very way of life. May tried to focus on channeling light, but she could feel the battle through the pack bond, could feel each wound inflicted, each wolf pushed to their limits, each moment they held the line against overwhelming numbers. Clinton Archer went down first, 3 corrupted wolves overwhelming his aged body. Kevin Robison fell moments later, torn apart while trying to heal a wounded packmate. No, May's wolf howled. We're losing them. We're losing our pack. May's concentration wavered, her light flickering. Don't stop, Douglas shouted, blood streaming from multiple wounds as he fought off 4 corrupted wolves simultaneously. The ward is almost complete, I can feel it. Just a few more minutes. But they didn't have a few more minutes. The corrupted wolves were breaking through the defensive line, getting closer to the stone circle, closer to May. A massive figure emerged from the shadows beyond the corrupted wolves. Not wolf-shaped, but humanoid, composed entirely of living darkness. Red eyes blazed in its face, and when it spoke, the voice was the same multitonal sound from the corrupted wolf that had attacked their border. Bernard Wolf, the Shadow King said, his voice resonating across the ridge. You think activating one ward will stop me? I am eternal. I am darkness itself. And you are a child playing with power you don't understand. He gestured, and the corrupted wolves surged forward with renewed frenzy. The defensive line collapsed. Wolves went down screaming. Blood stained the sacred stones. And May felt something break inside her. These were her wolves, her pack, her responsibility, and she was going to let them die, because she wasn't strong enough, wasn't fast enough, wasn't enough. No. Her mother's voice, clear as if Karen Bernard stood beside her. You are enough. You have always been enough. Stop holding back, May. Stop being afraid of your own power. Let it all out. May's eyes snapped open, blazing with pure silver light. She'd been channeling her power into the ward, trying to activate ancient protections, but that wasn't enough anymore. The Shadow King had forced her hand, so instead of carefully, precisely activating one ward, May released everything. Every ounce of divine light the moon goddess had blessed her with, every bit of power accumulated through 23 years of suffering, every fragment of strength inherited from 700 years of Bernard women. She released it all in one catastrophic burst. The explosion of light was visible for miles. Silver radiance erupted from May's body like a newborn sun, flooding the stone circle, the ridge, the entire surrounding territory. It swept over the defensive line, over the wounded wolves, over Douglas who'd been fighting 3 corrupted wolves simultaneously. And where the light touched corruption, darkness simply ceased to exist. The corrupted wolves dissolved like mist under harsh sunlight, their twisted forms burning away without even ash remaining. The Shadow King's manifestation screamed a sound of pure agony and rage, as divine light seared into his essence, forcing him to retreat back into the void from which he'd emerged. This isn't over, Bernard Wolf. His voice echoed as his form dissipated. I will return. You cannot hold me forever. Your line will fall. And when it does, all wolves will know true darkness. Then he was gone. The light faded gradually, leaving May, swaying on her feet, completely drained. She'd spent everything, every reserve, every ounce of strength. She was empty. Strong arms caught her before she could fall. Douglas, battered and bleeding but alive, his eyes wide with wonder and concern. You did it, he breathed. The ward is active, I can feel it. The entire territory is protected. May, you. The wounded, May interrupted weakly. Are they? The light healed them, Terrence said, his voice filled with awe. He gestured to the wolves around them, who were standing and staring at their own bodies in shock. When it touched us, it didn't just destroy corruption. It healed every wound, erased every injury. Luna May, you saved us all. May looked around the stone circle, seeing the truth of his words. Wolves who'd been torn apart moments ago now stood whole and healthy, not even scars remaining. The defensive line had held not through sacrifice, but through miracle. Clinton? May asked. Kevin? Here, Luna May. Clinton's voice came from the edge of the circle. The elderly wolf looked 30 years younger, his scars faded, his body reinvigorated. Whatever you did, I feel stronger than I have in decades. Kevin knelt before May, tears streaming down his face. Luna May, I was dying. I felt my heart stop, my lungs fail. And then your light touched me. And I'm alive. You brought me back from death itself. The weight of what she'd done crashed over May. She hadn't just activated a ward. She'd manifested the full extent of her bloodline's power healing, protection, and the absolute destruction of shadow corruption. She'd become what Helena Bernard had been 700 years ago, a true guardian of the moon goddess. Douglas helped May to her feet, his expression a complex mix of pride, relief, and something deeper. Through the mate bond, she felt his overwhelming love, a feeling so intense it made her breath catch. You're incredible, he said softly. Just for her. Absolutely incredible. I'm exhausted, May corrected with a weak laugh. And probably going to pass out any second. Then let me carry you home. Douglas swept her into his arms, cradling her against his chest. You've earned rest, Luna. You've more than earned it. As they descended Moonstone Ridge, the pack running in formation around them, May's wolf finally settled into contentment. 1 ward down, her wolf murmured. 2 more to go. But tonight, we celebrate. Tonight, we survived. May closed her eyes, letting Douglas's warmth and the pack bond's energy sustain her. The Shadow King had retreated, wounded and furious. He would return his threat had made that clear. But when he did, May would be ready. She had her mate, her pack, her power, and most importantly, she had finally understood who she was meant to be. Not the Wolfless Maid, not the broken Omega, not even just Luna. She was May Bernard, guardian of the moon goddess, defender of all wolves against the darkness. And her story was far from over. 3 days later, as May stood before the pack in the Grand Hall, stronger and more confident than ever before, she made an announcement that sent ripples through all the territories. The Moonstone Ward is active and holding. But 2 more sacred sites remain. In 1 week, we travel to the Silverfall Caverns, in Eastern Territory. And then to the Celestial Grove in coastal lands. The Shadow King will send everything he has to stop us. We will face battles that will test every wolf to their limits. She looked around the assembled pack, meeting hundreds of eyes that reflected respect, loyalty, and determination. I'm not ordering anyone to come with us. This is a volunteer mission, dangerous, potentially fatal, and unlike anything any of us have faced before. But I promise you this, if you stand with me, if you fight beside me, we will seal the Shadow King away for another generation. We will protect not just Moonstone Pack, but every wolf across all territories. We will prove that light is stronger than darkness, that courage is more powerful than fear, and that a pack united cannot be broken. The hall erupted with howls of support. Every wolf present, warrior, healer, elder, and pup raised their voices in unity. Douglas stepped beside her, his hand finding hers, their fingers intertwining. For Moonstone Pack. For Luna May. The pack roared back. For all wolves. May finished, her voice carrying authority she'd never imagined possessing. And as the celebration began, as pack members embraced and shared their relief and joy at surviving the first trial, May felt something shift in the universe. The moon goddess's attention, focusing on her chosen guardian with approval and blessing. 2 more wards to activate. 2 more battles to survive. 2 more chances to prove that May Bernard was everything her bloodline had promised she'd be. The Shadow King thought he'd return and destroy her. He had no idea what was coming, because May wasn't just a Bernard wolf anymore.